Good evening. Welcome to the April 21st, 2026 meeting of the governing body of the city of Topeka. I will call this meeting to order. This evening, the invocation will be presented by Councilmember Miller. Please rise if you are able.
Thank you, Mayor. And for the final time this month, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Pastor T.D. Hicks, the man, the myth, the legend, and also the second best pastor in his family. He leads my church, Antioch Baptist, and I'm proud to say that, like Pastor White last week for me, Pastor Hicks is a big reason that my 11-year-old has found his faith. Along with his wife, Joan, they have terrible taste in football teams, he being a Broncos fan and she being a Bears fan, but we are honored to share a community with such good people. Pastor Hicks, thank you for being here.
You said I have 4 minutes to speak now, right? Let's pray. Gracious God, we thank you for this opportunity. We thank you for this chance to come and to just be in the midst of each and every person here on today. While we may not all arrived here the same way, or may not even came here tonight with the same agenda, we pray tonight that we can agree upon this, that we come together for the better good of our city. We pray tonight that ultimately the decisions that are made in this place will bring glory to you and will impact our city for the better. So I pray tonight that each and every person, as they make a decision, as they speak on behalf of an initiative or an agenda that they are a part of, that God, you would ultimately reign, you would ultimately rule, and you would ultimately have your way. But at the end of the day, Topeka is made the better. So we thank you for this opportunity today. And we give your name the praise. We thank you for the sacrifice of each and every council member. Thank you for the people that are here tonight to receive what is being shared. And we ask, God, that you would have your way. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I didn't see him, but I heard him. Your pops is here.
Yep. All right, with that, I would ask the clerk to take the roll.
Mayor Duncan.
Here.
Council members Hiller.
Here.
Valdivia Acla. Ortiz.
Here.
Banks.
Here.
Kell.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Bradbury. Here. McGee.
Here.
And Hofer.
Here.
Okay, we have 9 present with Councilmember Valdivia Acla being absent.
All right, we have 2 proclamations this evening. First up, I would ask Joe Blubaugh and Ryan Peterson and anyone else who may or may not be, well, I guess they can't not be with you, but anyone else who might be with you to come on down or up or whichever way this is. Just, here you go, stand here, around here, and I'll read the proclamation and then have you say some words. All right. Whereas in 1958, President Eisenhower proclaimed Law Day to honor the role of law in the creation of the United States of America, and in 1961, Congress issued a joint resolution declaring May 1st Law Day, and whereas the theme for Law Day 2026 is the rule of law and the American dream, the idea that no person is above the law is what ensures the rights of the people to live their lives as freely as possible and to pursue their dreams. And whereas the rule of law protects individual rights, promotes equal justice, and guarantees due process for all. And whereas public understanding of the legal system strengthens confidence in our courts and promotes civic responsibility. And whereas the legal profession and judiciary serve a vital role in safeguarding liberty, promoting fairness, and advancing justice within our community. And whereas the Topeka Bar Association works to promote public understanding of the legal system and access to justice through education, outreach, and community service. Now, therefore, I, Spencer L. Duncan, the proud son of a lawyer and mayor of the city of Topeka, Kansas, do proclaim May 1st, 2026 as Law Day and encourage all residents to recognize the importance of the rule of law. Who would like to say something?
He's the chair.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ryan Peterson. Mayor, thank you so much for having us out here tonight. This says a lot about Topeka and their focus on law, because whether you know it or not, I'm sure we all know it, but it permeates through all of our lives in some way or another. And so I think it's important to kind of take a beat sometimes and take a look at, kind of the great system and the justice system and the protections and liberties that we have here, not just in Topeka, but in Kansas as a whole and the United States. And so we're just honored to be here and have a moment to honor this Law Day this year. So thank you.
Next up, Jennifer Gassman, are you here? And anyone else who may want to come up with you? Or who you may make come up with you, even if they don't really want to?
I'll make her.
Thank you for being here. It's all right. Spread out a little. It's okay. There you go. All right. Whereas the day of April 22nd, 2026 will be designated as National Drug Endangered Children Awareness Day, and whereas the month of April is Child Abuse Prevention Month and drug endangered children are at a significantly higher risk for abuse and neglect, and whereas it is estimated that more than 10,000 Shawnee County children live in homes where alcohol or other drugs are being abused, and it is estimated that 211 Shawnee County infants are born prenatally exposed to a substance every year. And whereas children whose parents or caregivers use drugs are at a higher risk to use drugs themselves, whereas all parents need to receive information about the effects that drugs and other substances have on their unborn babies and their children and on their judgment and parenting abilities, and whereas the statewide Kansas Alliance for Drug Endangered Children, along with the Shawnee County Alliance for Drug Endangered Children, invite all residents of the city of Topeka to participate in Drug Endangered Children Awareness Day. Now, therefore, I, Spencer L. Duncan, Mayor of Topeka, Kansas, do hereby proclaim Wednesday, April 22nd, 2026, as National Drug Endangered Children Awareness Day in the city of Topeka. Who would like to say something?
Thank you for your support of this cause. The Shawnee County Alliance for Drug Endangered Children has been in existence since 2004. Our mission is to help, hope, and support families and children affected by substance use. For the month of April, we've been holding a weekly webinar series for the state and across the nation too, with different topics, including parents who are in recovery and are parenting their children because of the drug endangered children's services that are in this community. And we have a statewide Kansas Alliance for Drug Endangered Children conference next week. But this is a mission. I've been working in this field for 21 years now, and I just thank you for your support for this cause.
All right, well, thank you very much. All right, with that, we will move on. We have one presentation this evening. City Clerk.
A is Topeka, it's the presentation for the Topeka Sustainability Advisory Board.
City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the governing body. Mikola Saunders, the president of the Topeka Sustainability Advisory Board, will lead us through this discussion.
Hello.
Good evening, Mikola.
Is it okay for me to stand here?
Yep, you can stand, you can sit. You can-
Okay, I'm a teacher, so I'd rather be standing. Okay, thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. All right, so first of all, to start, thank you very much for your time. For those of you who are new to the council since last April, thank you for your service, and I look forward to talking with you soon. What I have here is 100 statements of support from Topekans for the recommendations that we are going to bring forward to you today. So, I'm going to give those to you. Thank you. And just to be clear, we called it a statement of support. We did not call it a petition. So I cannot guarantee that every single one of those people is registered to vote in the city of Topeka. I just want you, in spirit of transparency, to know that. We know that they care about sustainability in Topeka and that they consider themselves residents of Topeka. That's what we know. The other thing that I would like to say before I get started with the actual presentation is there are several members of the Volunteer Sustainability Advisory Board here, and if you wouldn't mind standing so they know who you are. And then if you're wearing green and you care about this, would you also stand if you're able, or wave, or otherwise let them know that you're here? Thank you very much. Okay, so last year we talked to you about some cities in Topeka who have sustainability coordinators already. This year we have something extra to provide in the, again, spirit of transparency and the challenge to prove it. You already know who we are and our charge from the city code. And hopefully you're aware that we still have Sylvan Coles until he retires from utilities with us. And then Caitlin Wills from the city manager's office has been supporting us monthly as well. So this is our charge as written in city code. So you want us to tell you how to support the environment in the community, right? And this was created at least in 2008, maybe before then, right? So we're doing our best as volunteers once a month to attempt to do that. And for most of that time, so we don't have anybody on the board now who's been there since formation, but for most of that time, we have consistent support from these city departments. And so we want to publicly thank Public Works, Forestry, Utilities, and also Shawnee County Waste Management for their continuous communication with us as a board. And new this year is our membership in an organization called ICLEI, which the acronym doesn't help explain anything. So I'll just tell you what they do. It's an international nonprofit that provides resources to communities around the world related to different development pathways focused on sustainability, zero emissions, equity, circularity, nature, and resiliency. And with all of those pieces together, their goal is to create an integrated, sustainable urban development process and ecosystem for every community that they work with. So our board, once this membership was approved for the city in January, our board split up these different pathways so that there's at least a point person, sometimes two, working on each of these things and trying to make progress with city staff. So much of the report that you received details the way that ICLEI can help us make progress in each of these areas. Now, you know that we are not city employees, we're volunteers. So we don't have the same access to data that city employees do. And a lot of these ICLEI tools require specific input so that you can run a scenario based on the cost of doing nothing specific to our community, right? So one of the things that we need is more coordination between departments and us. We don't want to learn about reports that are championing the work that Topeka is doing after the fact. We don't want to learn about the work that's happening at a stage where our input is not valuable. And that's why we're so focused on the sustainability management position in some configuration, right? So we know some of these communities we mentioned to you last year. We know that there are other communities in Kansas who have been part of ICLEI for a number of years, and you can see them on your screen there. We also know that there's a list much longer than this of cities in Kansas with sustainability-focused staff. As soon as I'm done speaking, I'm going to send you an email that has an attachment with information specific to Lawrence, Wichita, Douglas County, and Johnson County that basically shows how much the work that the sustainability staff does in those communities has paid for itself multiple times since those positions were created. So as soon as I sit back down, I'm going to send you that email. So again, our primary recommendation continues to be sustainability-focused staff. Now, we understand that you might not be able to go out and create a new budget position, like a position, right? But we do know there are a lot of different ways to get this done. There are positions that might not be filled through attrition that could be reassigned. There could be folks sort of responsible for this in a number of different ways, right? But we know, and you all know, and I don't need to tell you, what gets measured gets done, right? And if nobody's responsible for the measurement, we're just volunteers out at sea trying to get our work done, and we have very little direction in terms of the city's appetite, right? We are, because we're environmentally conscious, committed volunteers, are thinking far, far ahead and very, let's catch up, right? But if that's not the appetite, if that's not where we are, then it doesn't help for us to say, let's start there if we need to start here instead, right? And staff can help us change that. So you can see that way back in 2010, when the work started around the board, there were goals set that weren't tracked in terms of energy efficiency, right? So we don't know if we met those goals. We need to be able to reset what those goals are. And as volunteers, without all the information that city folks have, we don't have the ability to do that. Sustainability staff, you'll see in the email that I'm going to send you, saves the expense of consultants because they can do that work, right? So instead of hiring somebody to come in and do a new study, the staff could actually do that work, and that's what's happening in some of these other communities. The other thing is, we need to make sure that sustainability is a consistent conversation throughout decision-making in Topeka. And right now it's not. We know that the department heads meet regularly, but not to speak about this, right? So in some kind of way, trying to keep that conversation consistent and forward-moving, right? And we want to help. But right now, there's not a meeting for us to show up to publicly that's focused on sustainability, right? There's not necessarily coordinated conversation around these topics at all, right? Outside of the departments that know they're doing that work day to day, right? So we would love to see a more coordinated, regular meeting of department heads focused on sustainability. So you've heard me say all of these things a number of times. Because our top 3 recommendations have been the same for a number of years. And we really want to make progress. And we're so grateful for the ICLEI tools. And we hope that the report gives you a new way to think about this stuff. And if you have questions, we can use those resources to get answers for you as well. So we really look forward to sort of the rest of this year with this membership and continuing to work with city staff to try to make some progress on some of these toolkits and some of these data-centered tools that we can't do without them. So We also invite you to join us every first Friday at 4 in the Holiday Building first floor conference room. We're there every month, and we would love for you to join us all the time. So, and I would stand for any questions. And if you have questions for anybody else that's here, I'm sure that they would also be willing to speak with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Kell.
So I'm looking at this, I know the staffing's always, it's been an issue for a couple of years now. So my thinking is, what if we had city employees, and tell me if this would work. City employees are almost part of the committee for you guys to do the work on the city side of things that you're wanting. And maybe, how many hours do you think you need? Like a half a day or a day a week, or one week a month, one day a month, 1 week a quarter, something to gather that info that you're looking for to help you. Because I'm looking at if we can maybe not just reassign a whole position right now, but then if we can look at that committee and say, after we've done it for maybe a year, that, yeah, this is something we need a full-time person concentrating on, or 5 full-time people concentrating on. But that's maybe my thought, is if we maybe have it as a committee first of employees that volunteer to go gather that info you're looking for. What would you think, how many hours a person would we need?
So I don't even know how to guess that. I will say that there have been several department heads who have been willing to start the work, right? We've had conversations, we've had meetings, but it's hard for me to estimate because I don't know what their other priorities are. And that's the reason that we keep asking you to make this a priority, because right now we get a lot of mixed messages, right? So, like, I definitely appreciate what you're saying, but we can't be the manager of the sustainability work. It has to come from within the city so that it can align with the multi-year plans that the city is working on.
See,
Right.
I'm looking at just trying to have those staff members, during their work hours, be able to be assigned to do that work. And so I don't want it to be where we're not assigning enough or too much. I see your work is, long-term, you're, like you said, the measurables.
Right.
I look at other cities like that, south into Kansas with their water issues. I've been saying for a couple of years, maybe in 20, 30 years, we're going to have a closed-loop water system in some cities that goes, from cleaning the water to having to go through the system, back to the sewage, cleaning that water, kicking it back to the clean water to clean again, and kind of just not even kicking it out to the river or pulling for the river, because there may not be a river to pull from like there is down south here happening. So those are the things I think we need to be seeing, those numbers year after year after year, to be able to jump on it early enough to where we're not causing, we're being proactive instead of reactive on those problems, because reactive seems to be more costly than being proactive.
We definitely agree with you there.
So I see the benefits. I just want to make sure, because like I said, if we can get people to maybe possibly, with city manager's permission, almost make a committee of employees that meet to be able to get you what you want, I think is what maybe the best starting point we can do right now with when it comes to that staffing issue. And those are also sometimes the people with the boots on the ground that know the experience from that, rather than just the numbers. They have the numbers and the knowledge.
Right. So let me give you one piece of data here. This spreadsheet that I'm going to send you, Lawrence has 1 full-time sustainability director. Douglas County has 2 positions, a sustainability impact analyst and a sustainability manager. And Wichita has 2 positions full-time. One is a special projects coordinator and one is a sustainability and resiliency coordinator. So just to give you a sense for how much staffing is adequate, I wanted to share that. And I'll share this information with you as well in that email. And I think what you said, Councilman Kell, about being proactive instead of reactive. We are hopefully still in a place where any action we take is proactive, right? But there is data that shows that parts of Kansas are going to receive climate refugees, right? We have no we don't have our bearings at all in terms of what that could look like, right? We already know that the city is having to spend more because of extreme weather, right? Some of the ICLA tools help figure out how those extreme weather events, if they keep increasing in numbers, would affect a city budget, right? There's no way between now and the end of our one-year membership that we as volunteers who work full-time jobs are going to be able to get through all of these tools on our own, right? So the more people from the city who are involved in that work, the farther we're going to get. That's the best I can say.
Well, thank you.
Councilmember Hiller.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mikola. I think I'm excited about the work that you've done. What you said prompted a couple of thoughts for me. One, and this would be historical, but I was on the council pretty newly on when the Vermont Energy Study was done, and it had sets of community goals and internal city goals that we could work on. We hit the recession right then, so not a lot happened, and a lot of that had to do with our buildings inside the city.
Right.
But at this point, we have done a lot of improvements, and so if there were a staff person, per my colleague, Councilman Kell's idea of picking some tasks and then having somebody assigned to that, we could check and see what the HVAC changes were. Hopefully, they are more energy efficient than they were before. How we're doing on the LED light changes, because none of them had been changed out then. And then on the community side, we now have an energy conservation code that we didn't have before. It'd probably be possible to see how many permits, for instance, had been issued under that code and what kind of improvements were made in the community. I do think that out of all that, picking a couple of specific things to target and work on with an appropriate staff assignment based on who we've got ought to be a possibility and help you from feeling stuck. I really appreciate all that you're doing. You've got a great team.
Thank you. And I want to shout out to the utilities staff for building the energy dashboard. It launched last year, and it means that what the information that you want about what's happening right now is accessible, and that wouldn't have been possible without them. They did that, so props to them.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. With that, we will move on to the consent agenda. City Clerk.
A is a resolution introduced by Councilmember Karen Hiller granting the Celtic Fox an exception to the provisions of the City of Topeka Code Section 945-150 concerning noise prohibitions. B is the resolution introduced by Councilmember Christina Valdivia Alcala granting Sacred Heart St. Joseph Parish an exception to the provisions of the City of Topeka Code Section 945-150 concerning noise prohibitions. C is the resolution introduced by Councilmember Karen Hiller approving a special event known as the Tap That Beer Festival. D is the resolution introduced by Councilmember Christina Valdivia Alcala approving a special event known as the Sacred Heart St. Joseph Parish German Fest 2026. E is the ordinance introduced by the city manager, Dr. Robert M. Perez, authorizing initiation of condemnation proceedings to acquire temporary easements for sanitary sewer rehabilitation project on Southeast 10th Street from Indiana to Lafayette, project number 291108.08. And then F are the minutes of the regular meeting of April 14th, 2026, and we have no applications.
All right, we have a motion to approve from Councilmember Hiller, a second from Councilmember Bradbury. Clerk will take the vote, please.
Never mind. Okay, we have 9 yes, the motion carries.
All right, we will move on to action items. Action item A, City Clerk.
A is an ordinance introduced by City Manager Dr. Robert M. Perez, amending the district map referred to and made part of zoning of the zoning ordinances by Section 1850-050 of the Topeka Municipal Code by providing for certain changes in zoning on 1.14 acres of property located at 2450 Southeast 25th Street from R1 Single Family Dwelling District to M1A Limited Multiple Family Dwelling District.
City Manager.
Thank you. Mayor, members of the governing body, Dan Warner, our Planning and Development Director, will lead us through this item.
Thank you, City Manager. Mayor, governing body, so the original proposal for this property was to rezone from R1 single family to M2 multiple family. M2 is one of our most dense multifamily zoning districts. Staff's review of the case led to a recommendation for either M1 or M1A and not M2. On the slide that follows this, I'll explain the differences between those three zoning districts. So among the key findings by staff is that the neighborhood context includes a mix of multiple family and the adjoining single-family zoning. Land that subject property is zoned single-family but hasn't developed over time, which lends some support for less restrictive zoning than R1, such as M1 or M1A. So essentially, again, the land around it hasn't developed too much over time. So the Planning Commission held a public hearing on this rezoning request and made the recommendation for approval for M1A. So again, staff recommended either M1A or M1 instead of M2. Planning Commission made that recommendation after a lengthy discussion amongst themselves as they try to work through what ended up being their final recommendation. There was also public comments at the Planning Commission at the public hearing, both for and against the subject zoning. The applicant did hold an online neighborhood information meeting. We require neighborhood information meetings for all zoning cases. Planning Division's practice is to have options for either in-person or online meetings. Staff tries to evaluate when to use online meetings based on circumstances of the case. One of the keys for this one being online was that the applicant lives out of state. Going forward, staff will continue to evaluate either having online, hybrid, or in-person public meetings for these neighborhood information meetings on a case-by-case basis. I want to also point out that the required public hearing notice went out per state law to properties within 200 feet of the subject property. And as I mentioned already, we did have people attend the public hearing. So what do the different M zoning districts allow? So M1 allows duplexes. It's one per lot. This particular property could support 3 to 4 lots, possibly. M1A allows up to 4 units per building, so that's up to a quadplex or townhomes. Again, 1 per lot. And that allows up to 15 dwelling units to the acre. M2 allows 5 units or more per building, and in a higher density there, up to 25 dwelling units to the acre. So once again, the Planning Commission's recommendation was to recommend rezoning this property to M1A. Be happy to try to answer any questions.
All right, any comments or questions from the governing body? Councilmember Banks.
Dan, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is in an area where there is not a lot of space. I support the efforts of a duplex system. I think for the public, needs to be clear as to the differences between M1A, M1, and M1A. I know that for us, we're looking at it, but all they're doing is really hearing it. If they're watching tonight, they're just hearing it. So if you could expand a little bit on the M1 and the M1A.
Councilman, definitely. So M1 allows duplexes, so 2 units per lot. We believe the property can support maybe at least 3, maybe 4 lots. So again, a duplex per lot. I will say all the single-family uses are available in the M districts as well. So we're talking about what the M uses are allowed, but single-family is allowed throughout all this as well. M1A allows up to 4 units per building, so a quadplex. You know, we've been having discussions the last few months about duplexes, tris, and quads, and in single-family zoning districts, so a quadplex would be up to 4 units. You know, it could be a townhome or it's attached, so that's up to 15 dwelling units to the acre. That dwelling units per acre is a maximum. It's rare you're going to get there on a lot of properties because you have to park cars, for instance, so you have to at least have 2 parking spaces for every unit you're building here. So the density, you know, it's hard to get to the density. M2 allows 5 units or more, so we're talking about a garden apartment, something that's a bigger property, up to 25 dwelling units to the acre, and again, parking and all of that goes along with that.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Bradbury.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to bring up the letter that, or a letter that was received tonight prior to the meeting regarding the applicants. And the letter asserts that the company is not registered to do business in Kansas and raises concerns about the legal capacity and enforceability. I just wanted to make sure that we address this transparently. And I'm requesting that we can, the clerk to include this letter in the record for this agenda item. I believe it was also sent to the clerk as well. And then for the city attorney and planning, can you confirm whether the applicant is registered in Kansas and authorized to transact business here? And if that verification is not available tonight, what are our options to ensure any decision that we make are legally sound?
Staff. Excuse me, staff.
Yeah, I didn't quite hear the question in its entirety. Did you say that you would like us to check to make sure that the LLC is registered in the state of Kansas? Is that what I got out of that?
Yeah, yes. And that if that information isn't available tonight, what are our options?
I'll go ahead and ask Dan right now. Have you made that inquiry yet?
No, that, we have not asked about that.
Okay.
City manager.
Councilmember Bradbury, that would be a step that we would verify through our permitting process in the event that the property is developed. And I don't know if Dan can expand on that.
Well, so I will also add that we require property owners to sign applications for rezoning, and she owns that property. So, you know, we accepted that because she owns the property here in Kansas. I believe you're correct about checking with permits, yeah.
Anything else, Councilmember Bradbury?
All right, so there's nothing on this tonight other than just the rezoning then of the property?
Correct. Tonight's about the rezoning of the property, not the development piece.
Okay,
Councilmember Kell.
that's what I wanted to
Oh,
ask.
sorry.
Thank you.
Yep, Councilmember Kell.
Now, Dan, you said that you guys decided to do an online meeting just because the developer was out of state?
That was one of the reasons, Councilman, that the property owner was out of state.
Even with that as a situation, to me, they can get online. Sometimes it's hard for people to get online.
Sure.
And even for me to get online, sometimes for our meetings, when we have our committee meetings, things like that, there are issues. So I think as much as possible, you should have the in-person meetings. And whether the developer or property owner is there or not is on them to me. And we should work around our citizens, not necessarily around a developer or a owner of the property, and let the people be there, because sometimes you're more interactive when you're in person than possibly on, via Zoom. It's sometimes a little harder to be interactive with that and ask some follow-up questions and things like that. So as much as possible, you should be doing these in person.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilmember McGee.
What is the, I guess, staff thought process leapfrogging from single-family residential to the 1A? Why skipping M1?
So, Councilman McGee, the staff review of the case, I mentioned, the key findings talk about neighbor context and the fact that R1 hasn't rezoned or hasn't developed over time. So just to be clear, staff recommended M1 or M1A. It was the Planning Commission that discussed it after the public hearing and landed on an M1A
Okay.
zoning.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Yep. Deputy Mayor Hofer.
Okay, Dan, if you can look at the map, are the PUDs that are to the south and the one larger one to the west, I'm assuming up is north, are those all M2 under their base PUD, or do you know? I mean, they're fairly dense in some cases.
Councilwoman, I'm not sure. I believe those are M2, though. They're fairly large properties, so the amount of units, could still possibly fit as an M2 use.
Okay, I was looking at the notes from the meeting. Two people spoke. But did we hear from the landowner that has the home to the east? Or the one to the west is the church, isn't it?
Correct. Councilwoman, I don't believe we heard from the property owner to the east.
Okay, because that one to me is probably the most affected from the change. I was hoping we'd hear from them. Okay, that's all I have for right now.
Dan, I'm going to circle back to a question off of Councilmember Bradbury on their standing, because you said the individual owns the property, they're making the request. But is that accurate? Because the report says that it's actually Calupi Investments who's making this zoning request, not specific to the individual owner of the property. Now, are they the owner of the property?
Councilman, or Mayor, they are the owner of the property.
Okay. Okay, because I don't find them in good standing in the state of Kansas. And I know that's an easy fix for them, but I gotta be honest, we've had this conversation before about whether we're checking this stuff. I know this isn't development, I know this isn't moving forward, but this is still an official legal request for us to make a zoning change by a company. And so, it gives me a little heartburn too, to be quite honest with you. So my question is, yes, Deputy Mayor. You can't speak during this. It's a zoning case. So no public comments allowed under the law. Do we have to make one of the three decisions tonight, or can we defer this to the first meeting of May so that we're all comfortable? I don't want to screw up the process. I don't want to mess up what they're trying to do, but it's 2 weeks.
I don't know of any reason why you could not defer it.
Okay, I thought we could, but I know with these zoning cases, I don't want to do anything that gets us into, that's not allowable under the very specific rules that we have. So I'm going to throw that out there. Councilwoman Hiller.
Yeah, I've got a question back to your legal questions. This is obviously something that Ms. Twemlow has brought up, that people have been missing right and left in terms of making sure that LLCs were registered with the state of Kansas. And when I saw the email that came through today, it said foreign, and I thought, well, foreign sounds far away to me, but apparently it's anything outside the state. So is that something that county should be checking before they allow purchasers at tax sales? And maybe this can't all be answered tonight, but, where's the line between developer and owner? And, because you're allowed to own property, I would think.
Correct, council member. An LLC that's not registered in Kansas can still own property. There is a limitation on what business they can do, and I'll be honest, I don't have that answer right in front of me right now to
Okay.
tell you what business activities are allowed and what are not once they're registered, but they can own property.
Okay. Well, we're probably fine for tonight on, the right for this owner to be rezoning at all, but it will be interesting for all of us to learn just exactly what all that means. For what it's worth, I can't remember whether it was in the application documents, I think it was, but the big owner to the east is the Topeka Housing Authority.
To the west.
Yeah, the parcel, the rest of the parcel that this particular parcel is in is owned by THA, Inc. And I guess I looked at it and thought about the input, even though I guess you're supposed to check with us. We had input at the meeting a couple of weeks ago that wasn't through the Planning Commission, but people stated some concerns. Maybe in 2 weeks, if that's what we're going to do, we can look at this again. But the transition from heavily multifamily, this is where Highland Park Apartments and Colonial Park Townhomes are, and some of the information that I've heard is that people are concerned that really, and so Highland Park High School is there as well, that intense development right there, not really wanting to have more intense development that way, particularly without a community center. And those kinds of comments make sense to me, although if we could check with Dan further, just because M1A would allow at the most 15 units on that parcel, given the way they require landscaping and parking, I wasn't sure this particular parcel would accommodate 15. It'd be good to know, but whether that rest of that develops as single family or as M2, that little spot looks like it would be transitional and kind of help the segue either way. That was just the thoughts that I had looking at it.
City Attorney, and then I'm going to make a motion.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to clarify a few things. I'm kind of doing this research on the fly, but this entity is registered currently in the state of Florida. Like I said, they can own property in Kansas, and according to at least what I'm finding in the statute, and I found some case law, a property owner has standing to seek rezoning. They don't necessarily have to be registered in the state of Kansas to seek rezoning, as long as they own property, which they do, and they are in good standing in their home state. That being said, if you would like to defer it, and I can verify that to you, that's fine by me, but that's what I'm finding right now.
And that's fair. I think what we have learned, at least who've been here a while now, is that once we make this decision, this project doesn't come back to us. So and we trust planning and we respect their process and we know they do their due diligence, but as a governing body, this is kind of our only bite at this apple. And so I think the sense I get is that we want to make sure we checked our boxes before we hand it off and then let staff do their good work. So I think for that reason, just so we can make sure we all feel better, I'm going to make a motion to defer this to the May 5th, 2026 governing body meeting.
I'll second that.
Second from Councilmember Miller.
Okay. Okay. All right. Sorry, just one moment here.
Technical error. We're
Yeah.
fixing it. We're fixing it. Everyone's wondering what we're contemplating. It's computers.
Motion by Dan. Second.
Sorry, guys, it's not showing up when I am adding this item in there, so. No, yeah, sorry.
If you need to just take a voice vote, it's okay.
Yeah, that sounds like a
Not a
plan.
problem.
I apologize, guys.
Just a reminder, the motion and second is to defer to the May 5th, 2026 meeting.
And Mayor, you made the motion, correct? Who made the second?
Councilmember Miller.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Sorry, guys, thank you for your patience. I appreciate it. Okay, Mayor Duncan.
Yes.
Councilmembers Hiller,
Yes.
Ortiz,
Yes.
Banks,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Bradbury,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
and Hofer.
Yes.
Okay, we have 9 yes, the motion carries.
All right, we'll move on to action item B, City Clerk.
All right. B is a resolution introduced by City Manager Dr. Robert M. Perez, providing notice that the city is considering establishing a reinvestment housing incentive district for the Windward Estates development, adopting a plan for the development of housing and public facilities in the proposed RHID, and establishing the date and time of a public hearing.
City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the governing body. Leah Bowling, our Director of Economic Development, will lead us through this item.
All right, thank you, Leah.
Thank you. Good evening. Tonight, I'm presenting the beginning of Step 2 for the Windward Estates RHID. So for an overview of the district and a recap, the city adopted Resolution 9721 in October of 2025, allowing staff to send the request to the state, the Department of Commerce, for them to review. They did approve based on state statute and that the location meets the need. City reviewed the application and the housing plan that was received from the developer, and the financial advisor conducted the financial analysis and the but-for test. The RHID review team reviewed that financial analysis. It did meet the traditional but-for test, and the RHID review team recommended moving forward with negotiating a development agreement and requesting the public hearing. So, as an overview, the project location, again, is at the southwest corner of 45th and California. The area there on the screen is represented with yellow. The project is estimated to be $9.8 million. It will consist of 40 units in total, 20 duplexes with 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a 2-car garage. These will be market rate rental housing units across 20 buildings. Staff are requesting the governing body adopt the resolution to set the public hearing for June 2nd, at which time the public hearing would be conducted. Staff would present the development agreement that's been negotiated with the developer and the project plan for approval. With that, I kindly request that you approve the resolution, and I'll stand for any questions.
All right, are there any questions or comments? Councilmember Banks.
Thank you, Mayor. Leah, do you know what market rate would be? Sorry, Dan. Yes.
So the question was,
This is my
what
first
market
day.
rate would be? I have reached out to the developer to confirm the approximate rental rates, but from our records on the applications, it looks like it's going to be between $1,500 and $1,750 a month.
Thank you, Leah. Thanks, man.
Yep. Any other questions or comments for staff? All right. Councilmember Hiller.
So if I can ask, because I'm still trying to wrap myself around the need for incentives for market rate, what's the difference, and this might be an estimate today, between what you just quoted as the actual rates for families to what it might be without the incentive? Is the reason we're doing the incentive to get the rates down?
So, Braxton, do you?
So the analysis that we did on that we use is we look at what is the market rate of return for the developer. And so we look at the total project costs, we look at their revenue versus their expenses. And so the question is not how much would you have to charge if we don't offer you any. The question is on the but-for test, but for the incentive that you have asked for, would this project happen? And so we use the cap rate as a surrogate in terms of what is that incentivized rate of return. I don't happen to have in front of me the financial analysis. We can go into that at the public hearing in terms of what the incentivized rate of return is on this, but it did pencil out in terms of the developer needing the incentive to be able to do this, and the $1,700 on a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car, that is truly, that's workforce housing, right? That's not high upper end. I mean, this is something where a working family would be able to afford $1,700 and have those bedrooms, right? So this one, I believe that our limitation on this was also limiting the developer in terms of if and when he goes to sell these properties, because he recognizes that these are going to be rental at first with an opportunity for down the road to sell. So all of that came into consideration, and it did pencil out for us on our financial analysis, and we can go into that greater detail. Had I known you wanted to dive into that at this, we would have had that information. But truly, we're at stage one. Governing body, we would like to set a public hearing, to have the opportunity for the developer to be here, to go into the analysis of it at that public hearing in terms of, is this something you guys are willing to incentivize? And by the way, we also have worked through all of the terms of a developer agreement for you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Banks.
Thank you, Mayor. Braxton. Braxton, thank you for that information. I think that as a governing body, we need to be realistic about these types of developments. There's no way that a person that's a moderate single person, mostly in our cities, probably going to be a female. Even though they are working, they are not going to be able to afford $1,500, $1,700 for rent in these places, even if the options are good down the road to purchase or whatever. We need to be realistic with our community. And we need to let developers know when they come into our city, if they're looking to develop something at about 700, 800, 1,000 maybe, that's more than my house payment. And I'm a two-family person. Well, I'm not a two-family person, but I'm a two-family house. So I know how difficult that would be, even though we need affordable housing. I think that's a little bit out of our range. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Banks. I'll follow up on that a little bit in that, to their credit, they're not pitching this as affordable housing.
Okay.
They've said it's market rate. I think the thing I always go back and forth on these is the balance between, if you want incentives and tax dollars, then absolutely we have a right to ask what those rent rates are going to be like, how that's going to impact our marketplace in our city, and if we believe that that's an investment we should make. I also encourage everybody to make sure you've at least, and this isn't directly, it's just because I've had to do some of this, make sure you have talked to people in the marketplace to understand what that should be instead of the number you want it to be. Because I know what the numbers I want it to be, and they're way lower than most people building will tell you. They can even make it cash flow, even with incentives to some degree, because of the cost of building. And so that's one of the things we're trying to balance is what does the market look like because of the current economy and what rates are on building costs, and if we're at least making realistic asks of those folks and what that number would be depending on the development. So that if we're going to set these standards, which I think are fair, we're at least in the realm of the right area of those standards as opposed to looking or being unreasonable. So, and that's a difficult balance, and I will tell you again, that's something I'm trying to have those conversations with people now so we can all be a little more educated. So these are tough ones. So Councilmember Kell.
So just by happenstance, I've been penciling the numbers for my daughter for an apartment. She makes over $20 an hour and can barely, by the time you take deductions and all that, out of a $20 an hour check, you can barely afford a $1,200 a month apartment. So when you add in, your gas and electric and all that, and your renter's insurance and things like that. So now let's say you're 4-bedroom, okay, that's not unreasonable, let's say on rent, but now you're feeding that many mouths, you're trying to do all that stuff for that many people, and it adds up so quickly that to some people that may not seem like a bunch, I would have figured $1,200 wouldn't be that bad, but looking at what my daughter makes to what she's looking for in an apartment, what she can pay, and it's like $1,200 a month on $20 an hour. And how many $20 an hour jobs do we have around Topeka? How many people are working two $10 an hour jobs, or husband and wife are working two $10, $15 hour? So now you're having to work two jobs just to be able to afford rent. I understand the more rentals we have will help somewhat lower overall rent because there's not going to be that competitive market for it. But at the same point, when are we going to let the rich keep on getting richer? And also the aspect of, I kind of want to see some clawbacks on some of these things we're doing, because we can help someone incentivize building or revamping an apartment complex, but if they don't touch it for the next 20 years to do any improvements, upkeep or anything like that, because their mindset is a rental, someone's going to tear up anyways, we need to look at, like, okay, you need to have certain benchmarks after 5-10 years to be able to, in essence, stay a part of what you're doing, and possibly have clawbacks if they're not willing to upkeep these properties, because there are landlords out there that just, they build it, and until it's condemned, they're not doing anything to it. And to kind of force people to, the way the market is right now, forcing people to rent. You could be paying $1,500 a month in rent right now and not qualify for a $1,000 a month mortgage. And you can do that for 5 years, and all of a sudden, the math is not mathing out there in this world, and so having higher and higher and higher rents out there it's not helping our citizens, and allowing, I understand these programs are out there for a reason, but to keep on allowing these developers to go middle to high end on stuff doesn't help our community. Thank you.
Councilmember Hiller.
Just wanted to kind of piggyback on some of those comments and appreciate them. Just if this is full market rate, I assume that the intent is, we had a market study done a couple of years ago. We've been fulfilling those goals, to kind of see where we are. That study identified that we had needs at all levels, market rate, workforce, and affordable, I think is how they divided it. But certainly one of the reasons to have this new housing as rental or homeowner at this rate is to attract people that otherwise might not have, who are working in Topeka but don't live here, to come live here as well. But if people can come next time when we have the public hearing, be prepared to talk about that demand at that level, I think that'll help all of us see where we are. Thank you.
Councilmember McGee.
Thank you, Mayor. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this resolution sets the hearing and provides us the opportunity to have the developers here so we can have that dialogue with them about rates. I think this is our opportunity to have the developers here and have a direct dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Motion from me to approve, second from Councilmember Bradbury. Any other comments or questions? All right, clerk will take the vote, please.
And Councilmember Bradbury, oh, yours is already in, never mind. Councilmember Bates? Is it working? Yeah, okay. Oh, you're still deciding.
It's working.
Okay. I'm just wanting to make sure. Okay, we have 9 yes, the motion carries.
All right, we'll move on to action item C. City Clerk.
C is a public hearing for the purpose of receiving public comment on the proposed Capital City Townhomes redevelopment tax increment financing district and the adoption of the plan, as well as the ordinance introduced by City Manager Dr. Robert M. Perez establishing a tax increment financing district for the Capital City Townhomes redevelopment district and adopting a district plan for the redevelopment project.
All right, just a reminder, this will be a public hearing, so after we hear from staff, I will open up the public hearing, give anyone who is here who wants to speak an opportunity. Once I close it, then everyone on the governing body will have an opportunity to ask their questions and comments. So with that, City Manager.
Thank you. Mayor, members of the governing body, Braxton Copley, Deputy City Manager, who will lead us through this item.
Good evening, governing body. Tonight we're here to talk about the Cap City Townhomes project. As a reminder, back in March, we came before you and asked for the public hearing. Tonight's the public hearing. There are 3 items that will be in front of you. The first is the public hearing and the consideration of establishment of the TIF district. The second item will be the neighborhood revitalization plan and the specific ask, which is the plus 20 or a 20-year timeframe under the neighborhood revitalization plan. And then the third and final item is the developer agreement. I have a PowerPoint presentation that will relate to all 3 of these items. After I complete my PowerPoint presentation, Tony Kresnick, who is the developer, is present and has a brief presentation as well as a artist rendering of what one of the fully redeveloped townhomes will look like. So as a reminder, this particular development is located at the northeast corner of 21st and Topeka. This was originally developed back in 2006, 2007 by Pioneer Homes. In 2024, this developer inherited these homes through a foreclosure receivership process. So he has only been operating this since 2024. He's made an application for tax credits to help with the financing and the very much needed rehabilitation of this particular property. So the project overview will be, there are 11 buildings, total of 47 rental townhome units, looking at a rolling rehab 12 to 14-month period. There will be 9 market rate units and 38 affordable units that will have their rents restricted to 60% of the area median income, otherwise known as AMI. That rent restriction will be in place through a land use restriction agreement between the developer and the Kansas Housing Resources Center as a condition of getting the low-income housing tax credits on that property. The developer needs a 20-year NRP to be able to meet the underwriting requirements, given the fact that even with a few market rate properties, with those restricted rents, these are very difficult to cash flow to be able to make the revenue cover the expenses of operating it. We are going to talk a little bit about the TIF and blight, but what the developer wants to do ultimately is get the NRP plus 20. The only way to do that is the property has to be under our neighborhood revitalization plan. The property has to be located within a tax increment financing or a TIF district to be eligible for that plus 20. He does not plan to utilize the TIF. He plans to utilize the NRP. TIF is capturing the tax increment to be able to pay for eligible costs. The NRP is you pay your taxes and then you get a certain percentage of those rebated back to you, and then you can use those funds for costs related to the development. Okay, so TIF, you get the taxes, the tax increment paid back to you. Tax rebate, you pay the taxes and just get a rebate, and it's only the increment above what the current assessed valuation of that is. We've already covered the change in ownership in 2024. This is from their tenant relocation plan, which is attached to the agenda item. That's required by KHRC and specifically required under federal law if you're relocating tenants to be able to do the rehab. We'll tell you, when I was a developer, we did rolling rehabs, and these are, it's like moving, it's a huge jigsaw puzzle or chess match in terms of trying to move people into vacant units to rehab their units and then move them back in. The key points of this are use either on-site, so if you've got a vacant unit on-site or an affiliated unit, one of your other properties, or if you need to move someone in for a short hotel stay till you can get a hotel unit to get one of your vacant units open for them. Those are part of that strategy. Landlord plans to cover all of the costs, including moving costs, no cleaning requirement, no out-of-pocket expenses for the tenant in terms of moving them from point A and then back to point B. There is ample requirements under federal law relative to the notice that you have to give prior to any relocation. The TIF district, not the first rodeo for any of you. For TIF, you have to meet the statutory, one of the 4 statutory rubrics to be able to create a benefit district, right? And in this case, the developer engaged a consultant and did a blight study. And in that blight study, they looked at the statutory factors. And in this case, under KSA 12-1770, the factors that it met were a substantial number of deteriorated or deteriorating structures, inadequate street layout, unsanitary or unsafe conditions, deteriorated site conditions, obsolete platting or planning, conditions which endanger life and property, as well as conditions creating economic obsolescence. So it meets the vast majority of those statutory factors to be able for the governing body to make a finding that this is a blighted property or a blighted area to allow for the creation of the TIF district. So at the end of the day, we recommend creation of the TIF district to allow for the property to qualify for the 20-year NRP and approve the development agreement. And with that, Tony Krusnick, the developer, is here, does have his artist rendering of the revitalized property, and would like to talk to you about the need and his excitement for this particular project. Tony?
If anyone has questions for Tony, go ahead and hit your button, and I'll let you ask him questions before we open the hearing. And just a clarification, this property is at 21st and Adams, correct? I think he actually said Topeka, but it was a slip. You're good.
My apologies.
Just clarifying.
21st and Adams.
Yep. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Should be, green light means it's on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
City Council. Braxton, thank you as well. Braxton, can you share this artist rendering? Is there a way to put it on the big screen?
It's on right now.
Thank you. I'll give you a brief introduction. I talk too much sometimes, so I'll try to shut up here in a second. But my name's Tony Kresnick. I'm the founder of Flint Hills Holdings Group. We are based in Prairie Village, Kansas, and we specialize in affordable housing and historic tax credit preservation. I believe some of you are aware and have been to the work that I've done in Lawrence, Kansas, in the Warehouse Arts District. I'm also the state chair for the Kansas Housing Association and a member of the 2024 Leadership Kansas class. as Braxton mentioned, why we're here today is we're doing a $13 million renovation of the dilapidated Pioneer Adams Townhomes and rebranding them as Capital City Townhomes, giving it a fresh breath of life and a new name. We're keeping the apartments affordable in the same rent-restricted program that they have been in since their inception. We've agreed to extend this restriction for an additional 30 years beyond the original commitment from the original developers with the Kansas Housing Resource Corporation. The measures tonight would ensure the property taxes do not significantly increase, which would render the project and economics even worse than they were before the renovation. What the finished product will be: solid surface countertops, stainless steel appliances, luxury vinyl tile flooring, high-end finishes that won't break or have to be replaced constantly, as we saw with the last group. All this while rents remain affordable. We're also increasing security at the property, multiplying the amount of cameras and adding additional exterior lighting. Upon this approval, we will also be securing the various buildings with fencing, reducing unwanted foot traffic throughout the property, which we've had constantly and worked with your fine police department on, but there's only so much that they can do in the current situation. Not only will this improve the security, but also make it safer for the children, and we have many. The request tonight would ensure a quality, affordable community housing project for the city of Topeka for decades to come. And again, I thank you for this consideration and are happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Kell.
So I know you're new to this, owning this property here. Thank you, Dan. I know you're new to owning this property here, so anything, you're trying to improve it, which, love to hear that. But what is the rent cost right now on those 11 units that aren't AMI?
Let me pull that up. Can you repeat the question one more time?
What is the rent cost of those 11 units that aren't AMI, the 60% AMI? You have 38 that are out of the 47 are AMI. What's the cost on the other 11?
The rent on the 38 units?
No, on the ones that aren't AMI.
On the 9?
The 11. Or 9, sorry, 9. Yes, you're right. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, what we have approved at the state, we have one bedroom. That market rate rent is $700 a month.
No, I'm talking about the ones that aren't, the ones that you control, that you don't, not the AMI ones.
That's what I'm,
Right.
that's what I just told you.
Let him finish, Councilmember Kell, and then you can ask follow-up.
We have one market rate unit under the one bedroom category. That rent is approved at $700 per month. We have one 2-bedroom unit that is at $900 per month. We have 6 3-bedroom units. Those are $950 per month. And we have one 4-bedroom at $1,000, and those represent the 9 market rate units.
Are there plans, once you get all this improved and all that, to raise those rents at all? I know you're going to have to recoup some of your costs, but I look at something like this where those other ones are kind of open for grabs to now, in so much time, 5, 10 years, double those up just because you're trying to recoup your investment. So that's my only fear is looking at something like that and seeing those rates just jumping.
Well, all rents, including market rate and rent restricted, have to increase over time, or else you lose the property. Like this one was almost lost, and I appreciate Braxton's comments. This was not in foreclosure yet, but it was well on its way. But from an underwriting standpoint, we use the same standard underwriting where you increase the revenues or the rents by 2%, the expenses by 3%, which unfortunately doesn't outrun inflation very often. But the technical answer is yes, all of these rents will be increased, but from an underwriting standpoint, we use the standard 2-3 from the revenue to OpEx.
So, okay. You said 2 to 3 off revenue. So that $700 a month, what are you planning? If you were to open that 700, totally revamped tomorrow, how much more do you think that rent would be?
After the first tenant moves out?
Well, yeah, if you were to open it up tomorrow, no one's in there, you were going to rent it out tomorrow. After the remodel's done, let's just say you finish the remodel, you're ready to move someone in tomorrow. What do you think you would charge on something like that?
These are the post-remodeling costs. This is what's approved by the state.
Right, perhaps you could explain
Yeah.
why these have to stay within a certain rate because of the program that they're under. I think maybe there's a
Yeah.
misunderstanding.
Yeah, well, the 9 market rate units, which is the only question I was asked, they don't have to at all.
Right.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to figure out, are those going to jump? Because, I don't want to incentivize a project that now takes people that could live there and says, oh, no, you can't live there anymore. And
Yeah.
so in essence, take something, make it nice, and then not tell people, well, sorry, you can't afford this, you're out.
Yeah,
So that's where, or someone that could have been living there for 5 years already, you're doing the remodel, move them back in because they already had at least there, and now all of a sudden now they can't afford it because the rent has jumped because of
Yeah.
the improvements that have been done. That's what I'm trying to figure out is, I don't want people to get priced out of the market because we're going with market rate, because it's been revamped.
Councilman Kell, I think I understand your concern, and I would share that concern as well. I think maybe, at least in my mind, you asked the question, maybe a better way of asking the question would be not on the market rate unrestricted units, but maybe asking what the affordable units that are restricted for the next 30 years would be. KHRC, nobody involved in affordable housing cares what the market rate rents are, but to your point, the affordable rents, I think that this would, if you don't mind, I'd like to tell you what those rents are as well. I just wasn't asked that previously, Mr. Mayor. The affordable units, there's 3 of them, 3 one-bedrooms. Those are restricted at only those are being listed at only $650 per month. In the 2-bedroom end, we only have 3 of those. Those rents are set at $850 per month. The 3 bedrooms, we have 31 units. Those are set at $925 per month. And then the affordable 4-bedroom, we only have 1 of those, and that's $950 per month. Specific to those, unlike market rate, those are rent restricted. And we cannot charge above what the published maximums are set forth by default by the state of Kansas, but it's also based upon the census data that's inevitably put forth and adopted by HUD. And what I can tell you is that currently, under the 60% AMI max, we are at 77% of that max for our 1-bedrooms, 83 for our 2s, 79 for our 3s, and we're at 74 for our 4s. So we went out of our way to try to find a way to keep this as affordable as possible, and make it sustainable. So the reason that we're before you today is, even though a lot of assessors, specifically county assessors, they do judge a property from the income approach. Right down the street, we have a couple of them. Had we not asked for this, we would have been bankrupted in exchange for making a $13 million investment, because the property taxes alone many times exceed the cash flows, especially with as high as interest rates are today. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but the vast majority of them, not the market rate, but the affordable tenants that were there before and will be there, upon reopening, they are protected by specifically the land use restriction agreement that we re-entered for a period of 30 years.
Great. So thank you for that. Councilmember Ortiz.
Thank you. This is in my district. And when I was out campaigning last year, I did notice a lot of the blight. I did notice that there's the address numbering on the apartments. That really needs to be addressed. As I'm looking for people, but not only that, it's an eye-opener, like if there is some type of an emergency for the people, the residents that live there, it's hard, it's very hard to figure out. Also, you talked about rehabbing it, so you're basically talking about gutting it from the inside out, right? Or from on the inside, right? Braxton, didn't you help work on that first time go around? Wasn't that a party? So I went in there the first time, and I liked what I seen, but I understand more. Everybody wants more modern, but I just never understood why we don't have any front screen doors on those places.
Front screen doors? Mm-hmm. I've got a lot of answers, but that is not one of them. I have not thought about that. But that is really good feedback. With us fencing in the entire property, we've included screen doors on the back. Right now, Councilwoman, as you know, you can just kind of walk through the entire property. There's no fencing really. As you know better than anybody, we have constant problems there, pretty large police presence. And so one of the things that we're doing is essentially fencing off the back so that between, we have 11 buildings there, so that each building, even though they won't each have their private fence, at least, a fourplex would. And so we think that that'll go a long way and therefore really activate the backyard patio, which is why we are doing screens there. But I can't commit to it tonight, but we can definitely look into screens on the front as well. I will tell you that we are doing one building at a time, and we're not going for some crazy modern finish, but the finishes are so poor in many of these units. The first 4 that we started with, all 4 were vacant and they were unlivable. And so what we're doing is one building at a time, moving tenants, one building at a time, 2 buildings at a time, 3 buildings at a time, not all at once at least, and then moving tenants into the buildings as they are replaced. As you can tell in this rendering, and I'm sure something that you've noticed, virtually all of the garage doors have been damaged over the years, and or gutters have been damaged. Not only are we doing all of the inside, this isn't a pretty rendering as much as this is what we're ordering. We're doing brand new garage doors, brand new windows, brand new siding, new roofs, new gutters as well. So, and by the way, a lot of the things that I'm talking about doing here were not things that we knew we had to do as little as 2 months ago. As you can imagine, we're peeling the onion back day over day over day, and we're going out of our way to do it right, and the last thing I'll say to your point is a lot of guys and gals can build something pretty, but a lot of times it falls apart after 9, 10, 11 years, which is what we experienced with the portfolio that we purchased, part of which was Pioneer Adams Townhomes, Motive Power, as well as Pioneer Adams 2 directly across the street. But if you don't get the economics right up front, you're forced to jack rents up, or you're forced to cut things like security budgets, landscaping budgets, and that's why we feel very strongly about the economic package that we're requesting from y'all this evening.
Have you had a tenants meeting to talk to the people?
Have we had the formal tenants meeting yet, do you know? The notices have gone out, what's going on, but I'm not sure if the third-party property management company has pulled everybody together yet. And again, in part because we're so early in the process, we're rehabbing vacant blighted units that were already vacant and blighted.
And the reason why I'm asking is a young lady was walking up with me in, and I'm like, what are you doing here tonight? And she's like, I'm trying to see what's going on, with my apartment. And I can understand that when you're a single parent and you've lived there, so that's so important, that communication with the tenants. So they can find other housing if they don't like what you're going to do, or they can know what's going on instead of not knowing what's going on, especially when you have kids.
The notice that you've received has gone out, a formal tenant meeting in person. We requested that on our weekly call with Van Binsbergen, who's the third-party property management company, last Tuesday. And I, too, have not seen that on the schedule. I personally attend anytime I can, and I believe Troy's been to a couple of those as well. So when that meeting takes place, we will let you know, as well as the tenants. And again, I oftentimes am personally there myself.
Well, that would be wonderful, because that eliminates some calls to me about what's going on and what they're going to do, and it also alleviates their fears that they have with this going on.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember McGee.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the improvements you've described, especially security improvements. That's important. I'm also going to support the use of the NRP as it exists today with the 20-year rebate. but will note that I have spoke with staff from the Department of Commerce. As far as we have found, we're the only city that offers 20 years rebate. And in our next NRP, I will push for a 10-year, which is the standard across the state. But we're operating under our current NRP, and it does provide 20 years rebate. Yes.
Thank you, Councilman. I would say this, I too am involved in that at the state level. I'm the corporate lobbyist for the tax credits, as I mentioned before. I will say two things. One, you're correct. In other communities that we work in, we do not need to form a TIF district to take advantage and use the tax rebate. That is 15 years, which is the max. Unfortunately, when you're asked to sign up and keep something affordable for 30 years, it's a shame that other communities aren't doing the 20 that you're doing. In fact, only specific to affordable housing, if a development is supposed to remain in good standing, quality, affordable, keeping the lights on, continuing to have the lawn mowed, I don't have any idea how somebody can do it after the property taxes go from, let's say, $30,000 a year to $100,000 a year. And due to that, that is why you're seeing some of this portfolio that I mentioned fall to the wayside so drastically after 10 years. And so we're on a market rate development. I completely appreciate what you're saying. Just so you know, we're actively pushing to try to get the 20 and beyond specifically for affordable housing.
Yeah. It will not affect this project, but I'm going to push as we go forward in the future for a 10-year with clawbacks. But again, that won't affect this project. And like I said, I appreciate the improvements, especially security improvements. And I encourage you to communicate with your residents. So, thank you.
Councilmember Kell.
So you said you're based out of Prairie Village, correct?
Correct.
So what are your plans for your contractors, subcontractors? Are those to bring people you already know in your area, or to try to use local subcontractors and things like that?
Great question. I don't know who all the subs that have been selected for the project are off the top of my head. I know that several are from Topeka. I know that one of the asphalt companies, either they're out of Topeka or maybe they do all of the Topeka work, because I had a recommendation that was that they said they already had a company, but from a subcontracting standpoint, the name of the company that we hired is out of Lawrence. They're called Marland Construction. Outstanding 30-plus-year-old company, but I can't answer your question exactly how many subs are being used specifically from Topeka, but I know that obviously it's in their best interest to use any quality subs as close to the job site as possible.
Yeah, I look at that, not only are those subs here, but they're buying materials here, so that has a long-going effect by having more people here. And I think it's best that when we have a project like this, we use as much as we have local to try to take care of these. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to let you guys go sit back down. You might be called back up, but I'm going to open up the public hearing here in just a minute, and then if there are further comments, questions for everybody, we'll return to that. So at this time, I will open the public hearing and ask if there is anyone present who would like to speak to this matter, and this matter is specifically the allocation of designating this area as a TIF district. You're more welcome to come up and speak. At this time, if there's anyone here to speak to this matter, please come on to the podium. Welcome. When you get up here, identify yourself. You have up to 4 minutes if you'd like to use it. It'll beep once at you, but that just means you got 1 more minute, and the timer will keep telling you how much time is left. And it'll beep at you again. So.
I'm Kalila Coben. I stay in the apartments, and my concern would be is it wasn't clear if the rent was going to stay the same, if it was going to go up, if we were We didn't get no information. We just said that they sent out a letter saying we are to make the check payable to Cap City Townhomes. So we don't even know how long we have to, if we choose to stay, we don't know how long we have to do so. We don't know if we do choose to come back, we don't have none of that information. And I got, me and my girls, and struggling as is, so it would be helpful if we knew that information. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. Welcome.
Sorry. Hello, my name is Georgia Cushenberry. I've been living there ever since 2016. I love it. Things been going on. We done told the managements that definitely needs to be gone from the area. But anywhere you go, you can't stop shootings. Nothing. I'm on Section 8. I would love one day to get off. All of us, as you see, we live by each other, protect each other, help each other. I can't afford to go nowhere. And just like Brett, with the money, if we get a job, you say 20, we make 10, we still can't, we got light bills and everything. I always loved living in an apartment because I can't afford no house with water, gas, and all that. Now, I never, ever, ever in my life stood up in front of a lot of people. I did when I had to represent myself in court for unemployment. That was a little. I have a disabled granddaughter. And I always loved in my apartments is carpet. She can't walk, she can't talk. She's 4 years old. And we do therapy with her. Put her on the ground and work with her. And you got a hardwood floor, you got to put a lot of blankets. I would love to stay in my place. I even called the city about the trash can where we can dump most of our trash, even though we got our own, to cut the trees down on 21st and Adams. All right there. Clean up where we used to see the Family Dollar that they have built over there. All of that. They need to clean it up. As I got told that I had to call the city to cut down the trees and do this, and yes, there is kids that be all out there playing, trying to ride their little bike, you know. But we love where we are. But we can't afford for no rent to go up. I can't. And moving our stuff out, okay. I'll try to, you know, hotel stays. I was reading that up there as they was talking. But I would love to stay there. I mean, I know it ain't about me, it's about whatever, I don't know. But we love where we are. If they can get riffraff out of there, which I'm quite sure they heard, as he said, the police, or there's another guy that said something about a police stuff. We love it where we are. So I ask, please. And don't think because I'm a Cushenberry that you gotta, everybody know Cushenberries, but if we can please get some help and understanding that with the capital city that we gotta send our money orders or whatever, drop them off at the Vance Binsberger and Associate, the office that we was paying them, but now we gotta pay the capital city and drop it off there, but we don't know who the capital city people is it them? We don't know. So I ask, please, I don't know what's going to happen, but I just say, please help. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here who'd like to speak to this matter?
I didn't want to speak, but my daughter forced me to come up here and speak. I moved in 2008, and when I moved in on Pennsylvania. It was only 4 units on there. No grass, no nothing. When I moved, the rest of the apartments weren't even built yet. They were still building the inside of the other apartments. So I was one of the first people who moved out there, and I'm still there. For them to tell me now that I have to move out of my apartment and then move somewhere else, and then for them to go in and fix my apartment and renovate and do all this kind of stuff, and then for me to move back, no. When I move, I'm moving. I'm not coming back. I've been there since 2008, and I haven't went anywhere. When I moved there, my daughter, who's back there, she was in middle school when I moved there. My grandkids, I have a granddaughter that lives with me now. She's about to be 17. They used to play on the park. They can't even play on the park now because people who live out there have dogs, they have pets, they go out there, they let them poop all over. They can't even go back out there. They can't go out there and play. I don't allow them to go out there because I don't want them dragging that stuff into my home. Every modification that has been made to my home, I've done it. I put new tile down. I haven't done anything. Every year when I went to them and I signed a new lease, the only thing they did for me was clean my carpet. That's it. I have rips in my carpet. I have all that. They haven't. And I went to a rental lawyer, attorney, and everything, and they said after every 5 years, that's supposed to be replaced. It's never been replaced since I've been there since 2008. It's never been replaced. It's been cleaned, but they've never had to replace it because I don't tear up nothing. My kids don't tear up nothing. No, I don't allow that type of stuff. I like my stuff clean. I like my area clean. You go to my apartment and I guarantee you, I don't care what anybody else says, but if you go in my apartment today, it'll look like somebody just moved in. And that's because I keep it clean. I keep it up. I make sure my grandkids keep it up and everything. I do not allow them to tear anything up. In the front, you look outside or whatever, in the front of my home, you can go past my address, I'll give it to you. You can go past there, it'll look like across the street. And they asked me, do you want to move across? No. When I move, I'm moving. I'm not coming back. This time last year, I was about to buy my home, but I had changed one of my jobs. And because I changed that job, I could not show them the income that I needed to show my bank in order for me to move at that time. Can I do it now? Yes. Do I like where I am?
Do you need more time? Your time is up. Do you need more time?
Well, if y'all through listening to me, I'm done. But what I'm saying is...
If you'd like another minute, I can give you another minute.
But all I'm
Give you another
saying,
minute.
all I'm saying is, you know, you can come to my home and you can see what I'm talking about, and you can see that it's for real. It looks like somebody just moved there. That if you go in somebody's home that has just moved there within the last couple of years, you wouldn't believe it. You would think that I just moved. That's all I'm gonna say. And I'm gonna leave it at that.
Thank you very much. Excuse me. Is there anyone else here who'd like to speak to this matter?
Your Honor, I'm all in favor of this. I think that the people that are concerned about their tenancy will find out that the developer has to comply with state law, and they'll be treated very appropriately. I like his rendering, and I actually sold that land to your deputy city manager's father-in-law at the time. It was a run-down trailer park, and I tore it out. Got the land shovel-ready, and that development, it's kind of shame that it's, to me, that was yesterday, but to have it blight in that short a time. The screen doors are ripped off due to the people that live there not acting appropriately, and that's a shame. But one thing that I think you're missing the boat on is not expanding the TIF district a little further out into the neighborhoods. The whole idea of projects like this and TIF is that you fix the window there and then the guys around it start fixing. But I hope you all vote this in. Thanks.
Is there anyone else here who'd like to speak to this matter? All right, last call. Anyone here who would like to speak to this matter?
I'll speak again.
If not,
I wasn't done, because I've never had a screen on my door.
then I will announce that this public hearing.
I've never had a screen on my door.
We're aware,
I've
ma'am.
had screens on my windows, and they're
Right.
still there. My
Yep.
blinds are still there. Everything is still intact.
Yep. All right, with that, this public hearing is now closed. Are there additional comments or questions from the governing body at this time? Councilmember Hiller.
Just something brief. I think up here we've got a better view than the gentlemen who are the new owners in the back. I just am really excited to see how many people from the complex came. Would you each raise your hands, those of you who live there? Everybody? Good for you. And stay together, and y'all can talk to each other in the lobby and say hello at least on your way out and get this started.
We're all neighbors.
I understood. No, I meant you, if you haven't met the owners yet and had the meeting, say hi. Get that going. Also, just for clarification, one of the people mentioned being on Section 8, just so the council understands, if those Section 8 certificates are on top of whatever those market rents are, that's making those units much more affordable to folks, whether people are interested in knowing how many of the units have Section 8 as well, we could ask.
Deputy Mayor Hofer.
Yeah, property owner, a couple questions.
Yep. Tony, if you come back up here, please.
If I may, for clarification, my name is Troy Smith. I am not one of the property owners. I'm a consultant and work with Mr. Krisnick, so he is the property owner. I'm not a property owner, just for clarification.
Thank you for that.
My questions are more to do with what kind of occupancy do you currently have? Is it like 75% are filled or half are filled?
let me answer the question two different ways, and I'm going to get close, but I don't have that data in front of me. I believe we bought this property 18 months ago, and I was trying to look it up on our phone, but it appears we purchased this property as well as some of the others that members of your staff and I have talked about in June of '24. I believe when we purchased it, and some of our tenants would literally know better than I would on the occupancy at purchase, but I believe it was around 65%. When Van Binsbergen came in, I think that either at this property or the property across the street, we got up to 91 or 92, just hanging on for dear life, not knowing if we're going to receive this competitive allocation of tax credits from KHRC. Once we received it and we had somebody move out or get evicted, we intentionally did not fill that. At the time of the closing of this partnership, roughly 4 weeks ago, I believe we were just under 80%, somewhere in that range.
Okay, my next question has to do with the apartments. You said you're going to start with the ones that are empty,
That's right.
and you're going to just systematically move through, 48 units, but are you going to work with the occupants to minimize their time away from their apartment, or help them move, or move them to another one if they requested? I'm just trying to get a sense of how much you're willing to work with the tenants.
We're doing all of the above, and we're paying for all of the above. Now, with that being said, not everybody's going to be happy. Change is difficult, and I appreciate that. But as we stand today, we've essentially mobilized on the 4 units that were vacant. We're 6-8 weeks away from hopefully being able to turn those. Is that right? So immediately we'll have 4 available, and those will be the first 4 offered. The reason that the notices haven't gone out yet is because we're not within that window that is required by the state. But to be honest with you, regardless of what has been sent out, if there wasn't a public meeting called, that's unacceptable. And regardless of me not being the property manager, it all flows to me, and I take responsibility for that. We should have done better, and we will do better. In regards to the comment about Section 8, first of all, I can't appreciate those comments enough, but I did want to make mention that we are committed, and I believe even in our land use restriction agreement that will be recorded with the county and has already been recorded with the state, we will continue to receive Section 8 vouchers for all of our affordable units, so that will not change in that instance either. And although moving is a pain, to say the least, I believe and hope that when people move back into their new units, that they're going to look back at this as a gift and not a burden. At least that's what we've experienced in other communities that we've worked in.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Councilmember Hiller.
No, I'm sorry, I was done.
I'll just make one comment, and then we have a motion from Councilmember Bradbury and a second from Councilmember McGee. The problem with these situations is we are all here trying to atone for what the previous owner created. No one in this room created that situation, not one of us. And yet, so we're now put in that tough position of trying to figure out how do we elevate these properties with the least amount of disruption possible, so that we continue to make them affordable and livable for the folks who are there, so that we are improving the properties themselves for the next 30-plus years, so that we're increasing safety as discussed and reducing that blight. So it's great to hear that. I do think the overriding message, which you've made clear you've heard tonight, was the lack of communication has created a lot of anxiety in folks that probably should have and could have been avoided. And so what I hear you saying tonight is you hear that, and now you know there's a lot of eyes on you moving forward. So we are watching, and we will be following up with these folks to make sure that they get the information they need and the assurances they need as you move through this process. And so
Thank you.
I hope that is what happens, and we have heard very loud and clear the concerns tonight of the people who have been here. So with that, I will ask the clerk to take the vote.
Okay. All right, we have 9 yes, the motion carries.
All right, with that, we will move on to action item D. City Clerk.
D is a resolution introduced by City Manager Dr. Robert M. Perez approving a neighborhood revitalization plan project and authorizing a property tax rebate for certain improvements for this capital city townhomes property located at the northeast corner of the intersection of Southeast Adams Street and Southeast 21st Street and west of Southeast Pennsylvania Avenue.
City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the governing body. Braxton Copley, Deputy City Manager, will lead us to this item.
Thank you, governing body. The last item, the motion was to approve the formation of the TIF district. This item is to approve the adoption of the plus 20. So it would basically be a 20-year property tax rebate, 95.5. The city and county would retain the 5% for the cost of administrating the program, and the 95% would be rebated back to the developer. So we'd ask for a motion to approve.
Any questions or comments from the governing body? Councilmember Hiller.
I do have one. You mentioned something about what happens when you've had the rebate for, in this case, 20 years, and then the rebate ends, and you need to pay those. We get to keep the taxes after that. What do you anticipate happening with the complex at the 20th year? Because I don't know what you're going to do with that money, and whether it's paying back bills or in your pocket.
The reason I smirked is I don't frankly know how this works when, a property, just to use an example, cash flows, $50,000 a year after it's paid net $25,000 a year in property taxes, and then all of a sudden those property taxes go up to $175,000. I'll tell you, not to get into the weeds, one thing that I do even during the 95.5 period is I fight to keep that assessment as low as possible, so that even really doing the work up front so that year 2021 isn't such a sting. My friendly competitors that don't come in here, I don't even know how they get past 10 years, yet alone 15 or 20. So I don't have a very clear message for you at this time, other to say that we very well might be having another conversation with KHRC and you all if we can't get that exit value as low as possible when that rebate rolls off. Because the one thing that's definitely not fair to the tenants is to keep rents affordable as long as possible for 20 years and then overnight say, hey, by the way, we should have been raising, the rents a little bit more than we have been. Now it goes up 20%, not, 2 to 5% per year, and you're left with an empty building and a ton of people upset. So I know that's not what you wanted to hear, but that's a very truthful answer. I'm not sure how people mitigate that. I will tell you that we have reserve accounts that's equal to 6 months of debt service as well as 6 months of operating expenses, but that doesn't cover the fiasco that we're talking about for many years. So it's something we're actively looking into how to mitigate.
Well, I appreciate you bringing it up, and it did get my attention. We're trying to work on our policies and make sure that we're not making mistakes so that we end up in a 20-year cycle on everything we've helped, or that things go downhill again. So appreciate your candor, and hang on to that property value.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I would entertain a motion. Motion to approve from Councilmember Banks, second from Councilmember Kell. If there's no other comments or questions, I will ask the clerk to take the vote, please.
We have 9 yes, the motion carries.
We'll now move on to action item E, City Clerk.
E is the development agreement between Capital City Townhomes LLC, a Kansas limited liability company, and the City of Topeka for the Capital City Townhomes Neighborhood Revitalization Program.
City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the governing body, Braxton Copley, Deputy City Manager, lead us to this item.
Governing body, this is the contract between the city and the developer relating to the terms of the NRP. Councilmember Kell, in response to the comments and questions that you made at the initial hearing back in March when we had the resolution relative to clawback, I will tell you that there are provisions in here that are not clawback, but they are events of default that would allow for us to terminate this agreement or to stop the payment of the rebate until the event of default was remedied. And I will tell you that the two big ones in here are if they fail to pay their property taxes, because we have had that issue come up on other properties that are subject to the NRP. The property owner doesn't pay the property taxes. They wait till year 3 when the county is threatening to put them on the tax foreclosure sale, at which point they then find the money, pay the taxes, knowing that within 45 to 60 days, they're going to get a rebate of a portion of that. So this says if you don't pay your taxes, that becomes an event of default for which we can withhold any future payments. The other very significant item that we have in here is under section 609, and that is relative to their maintenance obligations. And that basically says, during the term of the agreement, the developer shall maintain the project to a quality standard substantially consistent with the level of quality achieved at the initial construction of the project and consistent with comparable projects of similar type and age as determined by the city in its reasonable discretion. If they are in violation of that provision, they're in breach of the contract. If they don't remedy that breach, then that becomes an event of default, which would allow us to, again, stop the payment of the rebate. So while they're not a clawback, and because I'll let the city attorney talk about how difficult it is to try to claw back from a low-income property the amount that had been rebated in previous years to try to get a judgment against them on that and try to get that money out of there. While it's not a rebate, it absolutely is a legitimate measure in terms of having a hammer to require compliance, both in terms of payment of taxes as well as maintaining the condition of that property. So with that, we would ask for your approval of the development agreement and gladly stand for any questions that you have.
Councilmember McGee.
In regard to, again, I'm going to go back to NRP, and that provision in there, that if they're delinquent on their tax under the program, under the NRP, they are no longer qualified. I've asked the question for a legal opinion on whether this could also be done for properties under the same ownership outside of the NRP. And so I'm still waiting a reply on that.
So to clarify your question, which we don't get an answer tonight, legal's working on it, but is if they have one project that has an NRP and they're behind on that, then any other project that's not in an NRP that they own and has any sort of incentive would also end. They can't stay current or whatever that penalty looks like.
Within the NRP, if they're delinquent, they no longer qualify
Gotcha.
for the NRP. My question is for a legal opinion on if they own other properties that are not under NRP and they're delinquent.
If the NRP can be pulled. All right, so the reverse. Okay, that's actually
Very
a great question, and I too will look for that memo from legal. Any other comments or questions? If not, I would entertain a motion. Motion to approve from Councilmember Bradbury. I have a second from Councilmember Beggs. If there's no other comments or questions, I will ask the clerk to take the vote, please.
We have 9 yes, the motion carries.
All right, with that, that's the end of our action items. We will move on to our non-action items. City Clerk.
City of
City Clerk. Yeah. City
Okay,
Clerk.
sorry, didn't hear you. A is a discussion on the proposed 2027 to 2036 capital improvement plan and 2027 to 2029 capital improvement budget.
City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the governing body. Jason Tryon, Director of Public Works, and Josh McInerney, Deputy Director of Finance, will lead us through this item.
Thank you, City Manager. Good evening, governing body. Tonight, we're doing another round of CIP presentation. But first, since we have a little bit more time tonight, Dan's going to play a video showing what our past CIP dollars that you guys have approved as a governing body have got us improvements as infrastructure through the city. So, Dan, you want to play that video?
The City of Topeka completed nearly 100 capital improvement plan projects in 2025. As improvements continued to Southwest Topeka Boulevard, crews completely reconstructed the 21st Street intersection. The utilities and public works departments worked together to make improvements to water line, storm sewer, and sanitary sewer in the area before completing a total pavement reconstruction at the intersection. Southeast 29th Street from Adams to California underwent extensive work, including sanitary sewer, storm sewer, and water line improvements, as well as pavement patching and a mill and overlay. Work also continued in the High Crest neighborhood for Phase 2 of improvements that included water line replacement, storm sewer work, and a mill and overlay for many neighborhood streets. The Summerfield neighborhood also saw the completion of extensive storm sewer repairs and replacement, as well as mill and overlay to the streets with full depth patching as needed, select curb replacements, and select sidewalk ramp replacements or modernizations. Crews replaced water line and completed pavement reconstruction on Northwest Curtis Street from the Kansas Avenue Bridge flyoff east to the grain elevator. In response to flooding events, the Utilities Department upsized approximately 2,200 feet of storm sewer along Southeast 23rd and Market Streets, just east of California. Utilities also officially completed a comprehensive overhaul to the water treatment plant's West Plant Basin, enhancements that are poised to significantly extend that plant's operational lifespan and ensure its continued efficiency. In total, the City of Topeka resurfaced 37 lane miles of pavement in 2025, fully reconstructed nearly 5.5 lane miles of pavement, and milled and overlaid 24 lane miles. Throughout the city, 23,732 linear feet of sidewalk was constructed or replaced. 58,448 linear feet of curb and gutter was replaced in 2025. The city replaced or rehabilitated 6,075 linear feet of storm sewer system, more than 625 linear feet of sanitary sewer collection system, and 22,075 linear feet of water mains. Breaking down the costs, more than $42 million of the CIP budget was spent on stormwater, wastewater collection or treatment, and drinking water treatment and distribution systems. $17.5 million went toward repairing or replacing streets, traffic signals, and sidewalks, and $29 million of the CIP budget enabled repair and vital updates to city-owned facilities and building structures, including renovation of a new light-duty fleet building, as well as renovations and a much-anticipated ADA ramp at the Topeka Performing Arts Center. In total, 99 capital projects were completed in 2025, representing around $129.6 million budgeted dollars invested into our community assets and infrastructure.
So we thought that'd be a good video to show what you're actually approving and how it actually translates into the city as a whole. So tonight we'll be going over non-citywide half-cent sales tax funding sources that the Public Works Department uses to fund their projects. The first one we'll cover is the countywide half-cent sales tax, or JADO. So city has a 9.35% tax rate. Of that tax rate, 0.5% is dedicated strictly towards the countywide. So the way that works is it was voted on about a little over a decade ago for specific projects. Think 12th Street, think the Huntoon Street, think 15th to 21st on Topeka Boulevard, and as projects in the resolution. And the way that funding works is sales tax is collected, $5 million a year goes to Topeka, and then the 48% goes to the city, and then 52% goes to the county. And those projects are all bound by resolution, so we can't really change them all too easily like we can with the citywide half-cent sales tax projects. And so this is a project schedule in your book of the remaining JADO projects. So the ones that are going to be upcoming soon are the Gage to Harrison project and then the I-470 McVicker projects, which Jason will get into a little bit more. But ones that were completed in the past were, examples of 12th Street. And then finally, right now, the countywide sales tax has a high fund balance, which is pretty typical. We pushed back one of the 17th Street projects because the budget was deemed too high at the time. We replaced that with 15th to 21st. So there was a couple of years, 18 months, where we didn't spend any of the JADO funds. So that built up a fund balance to where we're going to be spending it down on projects over the coming years, but eventually there's more construction expenses than what revenue is going into the JADO fund. So eventually we're going to have to make the decision, do we want to reduce project scope? Do we want to subsidize funding from another funding source, or do we want to get rid of one project or two altogether? That's a policy decision for the governing body, but that gives you an idea of what the future kind of holds.
So just to go over a few of the major projects that we have coming up. Obviously, a large one that's been a big topic of discussion is the Huntoon Street project, Gage to Harrison. You're seeing some dirt moving out there right now. That's some utility relocations that are taking place. So this is a major project that's going to span all the way from Gage to Harrison. It will mirror a lot of the improvements that were made on 12th Street. And so you'll see both a reconstruction of the pavement, a reduction to one lane, a lot of intersection improvements, stormwater reconstruction, a lot of water line replacements, and that'll all be happening between 2027 and 2029. Just a reminder on that project, we're starting on the east side and moving west, so you'll see the construction starting on Harrison. And if anybody hasn't seen the plans of that, absolutely reach out to the Public Works Department to understand when that phase is going to occur. That project is broken up into a lot of different phases, so depending on where you live along that street, it's going to make a big difference as to what the construction schedule is going to look like. So another major project that we have coming up, this was originally slated to be constructed in 2023 and 2025, but as Josh mentioned, that was pushed back, is 17th Street from I-470 to McVicker. So along this entire stretch, we have planned for full base patching, mill and overlay, reconstruction. We have some utility replacements that are happening along this stretch of road. We'll also be adding additional lighting, some shared use paths, sidewalks, and possibly bike lanes. And these are all going to be questions that are going to come up when we come up with the final project design. As I said, this was designed once. We plan to construct this in 23 to 25. But based on the cost, as we got into the project estimates, we pushed this back, and now we are expecting 2028 to 2030 construction. So some of the other capital improvement programs and projects, I'll let Josh talk about the funding sources.
So when we don't use the citywide half-cent sales tax or any of the countywide sales tax for those specific projects, we have a couple other funding sources at our disposal to use. So we can either issue bonds to fund projects, such as we do for traffic signals. We get money from the state via the federal fund exchange. Talked a little bit about that last week. We get about $1.6 million. That's for basic infrastructure like sidewalks, bridges, traffic signals as well. And then we can always use a general fund transfer to fund the projects when there's cash on hand. So going to that, and we wanted to talk a little bit about bonding information because we use the CIP to inform the budget process for the current year, because if we want to, let's say we want to save up money and bond for a facility in 3 years, we have to save money today to eventually make those debt service payments down the line. So it's easy to do all these, say we want to do all these projects, but we have to have a plan to pay for them and we have to save money for it. So a little bit of information on, hypothetically, if we were to follow the plan that's outlined in the CIP on the bonding part. So state statute in Kansas is 30% of our assessed value. That's the max of what we can have up to in terms of outstanding debt for general obligation bonds. So currently we're a little below 10%, which is well below the state statute. But the one thing to keep in mind is just because we're well below the state statute, we still have to have cash on hand to make the debt service payments each year. So if we were to bond what's currently in the CIP, out of our debt service fund. This is what that does to our debt service fund balance. So we'd be doing a gradual spin down. But just as a reminder, our fund balance policy out of the debt service fund is a minimum of 10%, and we're still in the next 5 years pretty much well above that. But we are doing a gradual spin down based on the projects we have outlined in the CIP. Obviously, if you were to add projects, that number is going to go down. If we remove things, that number is going to go up. And then just finally, this just shows if we were to bond what's outlined over the next 5 years in the CIP, what those next subsequent years of debt service payments would look like and our principal balance, and then what it does and how we would comply to our debt to assessed value ratio as we reviewed previously. Caps 30%, but we'd still be well below that, which is good. But again, what matters is, do we have money to make those in the debt service fund to make those payments in the first place?
So this is a list of some of the programs that are funded out of these sources. We'll talk about each of these in a little bit more detail. So starting with our traffic signal replacement program. So currently we have 183 traffic signals within the city of Topeka. Those obviously wear out over the course of time. With this funding program, we replace 4 signals a year. So that gets us replacing signals once on a 46-year replacement cycle. The funding level for 2027 is $2.5 million. And the projects that we have lined up, 25th and Wanamaker, Northwest Lyman and Topeka Boulevard, Huntoon and Fairlawn, 6th and Quincy, Southeast 6th and Quincy, excuse me, and Southwest 29th and Arrowhead. So this also goes to fund our FIRM program. That's our Facilities Improvement Program, Replacement and Maintenance. It involves planning, design, repairing, and constructing administrative operations, fire, and other facilities. So this is really the primary source that we use when we're upgrading facilities, when we have key components, large assets that are needing replacement. This is the funding source that we largely do use for those funds. So in the 2027 project we have lined up, we know we have a lot of improvements we need to make at the LEC garage. We need to redo some of the HVAC balancing and refresh at Holiday. We also have a lot of ongoing work at fire stations that continues to need to be addressed. So our bridge maintenance program, we have 101 city bridges throughout the city. These funds are used to do a lot of the upkeep on those, the inspections that go on. $750,000 a year is nowhere near the amount of investment that you need to make in your bridges to keep them all current. So a couple of the projects that we have in the CIP right now that are using these funds are the Northeast Kansas Avenue bridge repairs and the Southeast 21st over BNSF and Southeast Butcher Creek. But as I mentioned, this is nowhere near enough, so those projects have multiple funding sources. This is only one of the funding sources. So our citywide infill sidewalk program. So this program is really designed to build new sidewalks and restore existing ones. So we have a pedestrian master plan that was completed in 2025. What that plan did is looked all across the city and identified where are the locations where we are currently lacking sidewalks and where we don't have neighborhood connections. This program allows us to go into those locations and strategically place sidewalks in areas that improve connectivity throughout the city. It has a $600,000 budget. Currently, some of the locations that we're looking at for 2027, Southwest 19th to Southwest 23rd between Burnett and Seabrook, and then also Southeast 31st to Southeast 35th between California and Indiana. So this also funds our fleet replacement program. This is primarily for the street department. So these are the big assets, the large trucks that you see, dump trucks, wheel loaders, grapple trucks, all the things used by the street and forestry departments that are out working on our infrastructure. So in 2027, we have planned to replace 2 dump trucks, a heavy wheel loader, an asphalt zipper. That's a piece of equipment that helps us remove asphalt pavement in order to put down fresh pavement. 2 brush chippers our forestry department uses to clear out brush and trees throughout the city, and then a chipper truck as well. So also with these funds, we have the project Northwest Lyman Road from Vale Avenue to Tyler. So the sidewalk construction is something that's going to happen on this stretch of road starting within the next month. We have some additional improvements to the street that will be planned to start in 2029, including adding curb and gutter and enclosed storm sewer. Another project that we have is Southeast Adams, 37th to 45th Street. So this will be looking at possibly converting that from a 2-lane rural section to a 3-lane urban configuration. That would be enclosing the storm sewer as well and putting a fully enclosed storm drainage system. The final design is scheduled for completion in 2027, and we'll make the determination at that time whether a 2 or 3 lane roadway will be appropriate. We do estimate the construction will begin in 2029. Before anyone asks, yes, we are aware the county is planning a roundabout at 45th and Adams. Our construction schedule is designed to accommodate that and make sure our design ties in well with their construction. So another project that's using this funding source is the Fire Station Replacement Program. So this is a project that we know for a long period of time we have not made an investment in constructing a new fire station. We currently operate 12 fire stations throughout the city. Ideally, you'd like to replace them every 75 years. We have not built a new fire station since 1996, so we are overdue for a new one. We'd like to keep making repairs and improvements to our existing fire stations as long as possible, but at a certain point, you do have to acknowledge when they've served their useful life and that a new station is necessary. So this project would fund the construction of a new fire station. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Miller.
I don't have any questions. I just want to say that the 2 minutes and 45 seconds that we spent watching that video was enjoyable. Shout out to the Works Department and the Marketing Department for putting that together, because that was pretty impressive, and it's a good visual to allow people to really understand what's happening with the market, the work that they're paying for, that we're all paying for. So I appreciate you doing that. Thank you.
Councilmember McGee.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is, help me understand, do we have outside bond counsel?
Yes.
We do now?
Yeah, we have for a while.
Okay.
Yep.
Just for my information.
Yep.
And do we currently participate in the Safe Routes to School program?
City Manager?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Thank you.
So I want to go back to the fire station. I don't know who wants to answer this question, but what year is that currently in the CIP?
2028, 11.26 million.
2048?
2028.
Oh, okay.
It's 11.3 million or 11.26 million.
Right.
And there's actually $100,000 planned in the 26 CIB for design or conceptual planning.
What is the timeline for us getting a presentation on what that overall plan is?
So we've been finalizing some recommendations with Chief Longstaff based upon the 2025 recommendation, the 2021 Fire Commission recommendations, 2016 recommendations. And so we've been trying to basically come up with a plan on what we would do with relocating or replacing. I will tell you the 2025 recommendations and the 2021 Fire Commission recommendations all included the first edition of Fire Station 13, which is in Northwest Topeka, and that's where the identified 4-minute coverage gap, the highest 4-minute coverage gap, does not exist. In the Northwest Topeka area, we're looking at 7 minutes plus in some cases. And so, again, just looking at that, looking at not just if we build out Fire Station 13, and I'll tell you some of the previous studies had talked about adding a fire company with that, and we know that the addition of a fire company right now with our budget constraints is a challenge. And so we're trying to look at a plan that would not just build out a fire station, but look at potential phasing of future fire station relocations as well within using our existing resources without adding staff. And so to your question, I would say the next 30 to 60 days we'll be ready to discuss it.
Okay. And the reason I bring that up is, and this isn't necessarily the only project, is holding these projects in our CIP before we have made any sort of policy decisions comes with a cost to our budget, correct, Josh? I mean, because we have to hold those funds.
Yeah, so basically, to use the example, for let's say we bond $10 million, let's say we were to bond $10 million in the future, we have to hold that money to make since we bought it over 15 years, we have to hold that money today in the fund to pay it. So if we didn't do it, we could not put as much into the fund and do other things with it. But yes, we have to hold money today to make future payments.
Okay, I appreciate it, because, let me be clear, I'm not saying I'm opposed to the plan that we may see. I just think it's important for us to have those timelines on some of these projects, because as we're having to make tough budget decisions, while that's as a placeholder for 2028 or 2027 design and 2020, I mean, after we have that presentation, if we make adjustments to that, that could also have a budgetary impact. And so I just want to make everyone aware of those. I think it's important we start making some of these policy decisions because of the impact it has on our cash basis as we're looking at other tough decisions with the budget. So that's the reason I asked that question. Councilmember Kell.
So you mentioned some of the people you talked about, a possible future firehouse and things like that. Have the firefighters been active in that discussion? Because this is going to be mainly occupied by them, and these are the men and women that are going to live there. And I spent a lot of time at 10, and I know their philosophy is give us a nice brick box, make it livable. That's all they're looking for. But they're looking for a few different changes the way things are set up. And I know things have changed over time, but those are the people that are going to be living there. And just also like the relocation, talking to the drivers, because they may sit there and say, yeah, this is, if we go here, us trying to drive here's where I see a problem. Because like I said, these are the people that are going to be on doing that job. And sometimes when you have all these recommendations from all these other people, it's best to get the recommendation from the people that are going to be living there and also the people that are going to be having to navigate those situations.
And I can answer that. So whenever we get that presentation, which the chief will give us, in conversations I've had with him, I can tell you the answer is yes to all of those.
Okay.
It's not being made in a vacuum. It's being made with conversations, and will continue to be made with conversations from our fire department, from our firefighters, from the community before those recommendations. So yes, all that is being taken into account by the chief as he kind of figures this out for us. Councilmember Hiller.
Thank you. As you know, I usually have a string of comments. I didn't even bring them with me per se, but I just, for everybody and to kind of refresh our thought processes, I was a little dismayed to see that when we had the different categories of how we would fund things in the capital budget this time, there were no boxes for cash or for grants. And I do think even if we're not sure which grants we'd be able to go after, that for all of us to focus on the fact that we can do some of these things with cash out of the operating budget, which we've talked about before, but also that we do want to make it a priority to get grants, or even in some cases plan way ahead that we're not going to pay for it, that we need to be really working with the state or with our congressional delegation, because it takes at least 5 years to get that, for that to happen, if that's where you think it's possible to get the money. So I'm hoping that as we comb back through this and make some final decisions, that we really do look at where the funding source could be, or clarify what it says in the book.
Just one point of clarification. If you look in your CIP book, you'll see some grant-funded projects starting on page 65. So we did not cover those projects tonight, but we do have a number of projects that are listed as grant-funded that I would encourage everyone to review as well.
Thank you, because I could find it in some of the descriptions, but when it had just the pages with the general categories of this is what to look for, this is what we do, neither were mentioned, and I just think it's important for all of us to keep it in mind as we're thinking about what we can do and how we would do it. Everybody knows I'm concerned about bonding and debt service. I would point out that one of the reasons that the chart that was on there shows a decline in the first couple of years and then starts to pick back up is that very intentionally we slowed down how much borrowing, and some things are paying off. And we really hoped we would be at this point where if we could keep it level, then we wouldn't be spending that kind of, we wouldn't start it creeping back up. Each time we borrow more, or even the same in a consecutive year when we've been lower, it starts to layer up and add more. An example, just to pull it out, might be if we really are ready to go ahead with Station 13, something we've talked about a little bit anyway, If you just take that and it's an $11.3 million project, if we bond it, it will cost the taxpayers an extra $6.5 million in interest payments to borrow money for that $11.3 million garage. If, on the other hand, we passed a sales tax for 1/10 of a cent for 3 years, our design, any advance work, and the construction would all be done with cash. And it would be over. So thinking about those possibilities as we look at not only whether we think we can do projects, but how we would do them. And the beauty of this sales tax stuff is generally, we spend 3 years on a capital project anyway. There's a final design year in year 1, then there's a site preparation in year 2, and then we actually build it in year 3. It just talks to me in terms of that kind of, especially a one-off, and not putting that extra $6.5 million of interest on our grandkids. Something else I would encourage looking at, I've asked for a master status report of where we are with the streets, just so we have some perspective of what's been done in the last 10 years and where we're at. We've gone back and forth on it a little bit. Maybe it needs to be a combination of, pink is the 10 to 5 years hence, and it's got a year number of what we actually did, and then it's got the PCI rating. I realize that you all are concerned that not everything needs it right away. On the other hand, we are really good, and we heard it tonight with the examples, in parity in terms of geographically dispersing our water, our utility projects as well as our street projects. But I have found it along the years, it's been real helpful to see a chart that showed what we've done. And right now, too, we are in the wind down phase of our second 10-year half-cent sales tax program. And so being able to see which major streets we've gotten done and which ones are still remaining, and be able to at least ask the question if they're not in this CIP, when we're going to get to them. One of the things we've done with fleet before, with the examples that were there, that has, as far as I know, been pretty successful in the Public Works Department, is to budget for X amount of winter snowstorms. And if we have that kind of storm, we're prepared, and if we don't, that's when we get that extra truck bought with the operating money in cash rather than bonding. So I just wanted to refresh that that's a lens to look at the fleet information. It was interesting to hear the project discussed this evening of, was it South California, 37th to 45th?
Excuse Adams.
Adams. I knew I didn't have it right. Our sustainability people were here today in the last 5 to 10 years, whereas we always spent a lot of money installing storm sewers underground and having to mow on top of them and maintain them inside, going with open drainage, leaving the proverbial ditches, is pretty low maintenance, allows it to percolate and so on. So I don't know if we've been considering that for any of our projects. But whereas that was the way it used to be and we tried to change it out all the way, there's certainly been a trend to go back to leaving that open runoff. We're requiring swales instead of concrete and runoff in our parking lots of big buildings that people are creating and so on. So I just wanted to mention that. Also on our streets, I happen to be the district that has the most brick streets. This might sound kind of minor, but our city staff, we have a brick streets and sidewalks policy that looks to the maintenance and sustaining our brick streets and sidewalks. Talks about being able to the city harvest bricks if they ever take up a street or a sidewalk, so that those bricks are available if we need to repair or replace something. That kind of got stalled, and the staff has been declining, for instance, to allow somebody to use bricks in a 50-50 sidewalk program. There's been discouragement of saving the brick streets. When we set that policy, the Public Works Director at the time sat down, and I may name these numbers a little bit wrong, y'all can help me, but the general lifespan of an asphalt surface is considered to be 10 to 25 years, am I right?
For a new construction with no maintenance, you'd expect 20 to 25 years if you perform no maintenance on that asphalt street.
Okay. Concrete is more like 50 to 75.
Again, with no maintenance, I'd expect 50.
Okay. The brick streets last 100 years or more. And so for us to fail to support that, we have both rebuilt them, but most of the ones that are brick are still installed the way they were in the beginning on layers of sand and dirt. I would encourage you all to go out and drive down Southwest 7th Street, start at Topeka Boulevard, head down 7th Street. Taylor is one that's been stripped. Fillmore is one that's been redone. Clay was done, actually torn up all the way, and they put concrete under it and bricks on top. Otherwise, if you go to Buchanan, you go all the way down to 13th Street near Central Park. When Bettis went in and started clearing for the rebuild on Clay Street, they discovered and reported to the city how easy it was to send somebody out with a bobcat and just pop that asphalt off and clean up those streets. I really think we need to make sure that we are affirmatively supporting the brick streets because they're lasting longer than anything else. And I don't know that it's an issue on any of the particular streets this time. But just to keep it in mind as we look big picture. Looked like on the street lights, you're now talking about a 46-year turnaround.
That's correct.
And is that pretty much a good, ideal lifespan for the street lights?
Ideally, you'd want a 25-year replacement schedule.
Okay. Something to keep in mind. Also, I think we've been decommissioning some of them. I think we've got, I don't know which ones are on the list, but there's some others that we could decommission probably.
So we decommissioned 7th and Quincy recently. We have also looked at the possibility of decommissioning 9th and Quincy, and there's been some additional work done under review. If there are additional locations that are no longer warranted or could benefit from having, a different type of intersection, whether that be just four-way stop or adding some additional traffic calming in lieu of the signal.
Yeah, you pulled the one at Jackson and 12th as well a couple of years ago.
That's correct.
Near the YW. And I've always felt like the one at, although we kept it when the last project was done, there is no signal at 8th and Washburn, but there is one at 8th and Lane. So just throwing those sorts of things out, we're those extra eyes to look at we see it through the budget usually, but those project descriptions are there for every one of the projects. And so we're really wanting to get everything done, but with less money. And this is one place. It kind of makes your head spin sometimes, but it's one place we can do it. Thank you. And thank you guys. I mean, I know it's hard.
Any other questions or comments for staff? Going once? All right, thank you very much. Yes, Councilmember Ortiz.
Sorry. On the Jetto, is that existing? That sales tax, is that existing?
No, that's the citywide.
Okay.
That's
Gotcha.
what we talked last
I
week.
just get the two mixed up. Just
All
always
good.
make sure you put existing in there.
No problem. All right. With that, we will move on to public comment. We have one individual signed up this evening, Mr. Henry McClure.
Henry McClure, Topeka, Kansas. I'm here to encourage the citizens of Topeka to rise up and get rid of the but-for test. This is an unnecessary layer of bureaucracy that's not needed. We've already determined, I saw you on the news the other day, Your Honor, housing, looking sharp on WIVW. So now that housing is your priority, well, why don't we just streamline state law? Why don't we just make it to where if you follow state law, your RHID will sail through? Why don't we change the policy to get rid of the but-for test? Jeff White at Columbia, it's graft to him. It's very easy to take Topeka, Kansas, and present a housing project. All you have to do is take the housing plan that you already did and tailor-make your project to suit that plan. It passed the but-for test when the Senate Bill 17, and then later signed by Laura Kelly, to bring in a rule. This originally was for rural America, rural Kansas, to incentivize people to go live in rural towns. And our housing is so bad and rotten that we've got a rural program here. So we don't need a but-for test. We just need to decide, well, we're going to do more housing in the town, and as long as they follow state law, that should be enough. A lobbyist would know that. So if you go back and look, I presented this to you guys as part of my public comment. There's really no indication, and I haven't been able to do a lot of homework, that certain cities that use it prosper more. It's more about economic development and jobs and the prosperity of the community. But we've identified that housing is our Achilles heel, so let's just make it to where it's easier, where we don't have to come in here and beg for our gruel. So, with that said, I think I made my point. When you're out there looking at these brick streets, go down Adams from 5th to 7th and look at that mess. So I get to touch on a few other things. But tonight, it's interesting how much of tonight was real estate related. The poor lady from Florida, if she just deeds it to herself and comes back in, she could get it approved. Just a simple mistake. It's nothing more than a guy that makes a presentation comment and he doesn't even know what street it is. It's not 21st and Topeka, it's 21st and Adams. We all make mistakes. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. All right. With that, we move on to announcements. City Clerk.
Okay, just a quick overview of the May 5th agenda. We will have 2 mayoral proclamations, 2 presentations. We will have 2 special event resolutions and 2 noise exceptions on the consent agenda. We will also, on the consent agenda, have 3 policy or public infrastructure committee items coming out of there. And then for the action items, we will have 2 fee waivers, one for DW Development LLC and Peaks of Topeka LLC. And then we will also have an amendment to Charter Ordinance number 125, levying the transient guest tax for the city of Topeka, as well as the ordinance for the 2026 utility liens. And then on non-action items, we'll have continued discussion for the CIP and CIB. And that is all I have. Thank you.
All right. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. In the spirit of Earth Day, which is tomorrow, I wanted to announce here, as we've been sharing in our monthly updates on our strategic goals. One of the goals since last year has been to implement an electric vehicle pilot program. The team's been working on that, and as far as the program, we're looking to implement six vehicles, 6 EVs in our fleet. We actually received our first one a couple weeks ago. And so I want to name it Michael Volton, but that's just me. But yeah, I just wanted to make that announcement as far as in the spirit of Earth Day, us getting that EV pilot going, and look forward to further implementation throughout the rest of the year on the other 5. The first one should be operational in the next 30 days or so as we put in the EV charger at Holiday. So it's just one of the initiatives within our sustainability portfolio that I wanted to share with y'all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. Real quick, I wanted to address an event we had, the Policy and Finance Committee had with Councilwoman Bradbury and Councilmember Banks. When we went to the library and had a meeting to discuss the duplex, triplex, and quadplex presentation, the meeting was very well received for how it was conducted. And there was a lot of things thrown my way, but I was just a small part of it. Without the team, without the city staff setting up over the library, wouldn't have been able to make that happen. And I think Tanya did a wonderful job of putting everything together and keeping everything in line. So I just want to give a shout out to the city staff for how they conducted that, because that was well received by the public. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Bradbury.
Sorry, I have nothing tonight. Thank you.
Councilmember McGee.
I have nothing to add.
Deputy Mayor Hofer.
I have a couple things. Seeing as how it was our week for our zoo board meeting, I wanted to let y'all know. This weekend, this Saturday, is Roar and Pour at the zoo. They have, I think they said they had couple hundred tickets for general admission still available, and actually a dozen or so available for VIP. So if any of you have not been before, it's an excellent event and you'll have a great time. Also, as part of Earth Day celebrations, they're going to do their annual plant sale. Their online sales start on the 30th of the month and run till May 8th. And then on 5/9, they will have an on-site sale. This is a big fundraiser for the zoo. It mainly helps with their conservation program. So any of you looking to get plants for the spring, it'd be a great fundraiser to help them. So go to the zoo website and the information to explain what they have and when you can buy in. All they have going on is there, and it looks like, I believe, the mural on the outside of the concessions building is done. And they have, I believe it's 5 animals that are part of it, and it's pretty incredible looking. And the same man who did that work is also going to do one on the new Tiger Trails in Den Academy. So we're going to spiff up the zoo a bit. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Hiller.
Couple things. One, hats off to Councilman Miller and the Policy and Finance Committee on the quote upzoning meeting at the library. A hot tip, apparently it was inadvertent, but it worked really well. People thought they were signing in at the sign-in, but that was actually intended to be a sign-up sheet for people who wanted to speak. Not knowing that, Councilman Miller, our Chair Miller, called on all of them, and probably half of them that weren't intending to speak went ahead and stood up and spoke. It was very fresh. It was very inclusive, and people did think it went really well. Related to that, unbeknownst to people, as this was largely unbeknownst to people, as this process that the City Planning Commission had initiated was going about changing what they call upzoning for duplexes in single-family zoning districts. The state passed Senate Bill 418, which has redefined single-family housing as including single-family homes and duplexes. And then it goes on and on and on for pages of fine print about some things. And I would respectfully ask that maybe we could get a briefing on exactly what Senate Bill 418 says and what it means for us sometime soon, to the point where people were wondering whether we should continue at all with the overall upzoning thing that we've worked so hard, or that other people have worked so hard on, because that really kind of blows it up. The other thing, on behalf, at the request of a block group in the Ward Mead neighborhood, I am very proud to announce that they are doing a big block cleanup this weekend and that you all are invited. I have been given some text to share, which I will. In coordination with the new Habitat for Humanity house, which is going to be built at 5th and Taylor Street, the alley between Taylor and Western cleanup has been scheduled for Saturday, April 25th, 2026, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The people on that block have bonded together to take care of their own houses and each other really strongly in the last couple years. I'm really proud of them. They have volunteers from Westside Baptist Church and First Presbyterian Church and Topeka Habitat for Humanity, as well as the neighborhood members who are going to be participating. Funding for a dumpster has been provided by Central National Bank. Habitat for Humanity tool bus will be on site as well. The city of Topeka, through our OIC group, I think, has offered to provide pizza, cookies, and fluid. Everyone's invited. If you'd like to bring some gloves, wear appropriate footwear, they would be happy to see you join them for as much time as you would choose to spend in that alley cleanup this coming Saturday from 10 to 2. That's it. Thank you.
Councilmember Ortiz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to say that Southeast Golden is closed. It is permanently closed right now. And to please slow down when you're coming through my neighborhood. We're going to have to get some speed traps out there because people are just flying through the neighborhood. Also, Southeast 6th Street from 6th and Golden to Rice Road is down to 1 lane. We've got a lot of construction. Please be patient. Please slow down as you come through the neighborhood. It would be much appreciated. I heard one of the engineers said it is a mess out there, and it is a mess out there. So, thank you.
Councilmember Banks.
Thank you, Mayor. Deputy Mayor and I attended a ribbon cutting today at Hilton Garden Hotel Inn. Wow, look at that.
Look at that handsome guy.
Imagine that, Brett. You want some of that, Brett? Think about it. Yeah, see, I've known that man for years. The guy was talking to me about dunking the basketball, and you could tell he's a really nice guy. Wayne Simeon, a KU guy. He doesn't like to talk about basketball very much, but I do. It was kind of interesting. The hotel is changing ownership, and it was really nice to be there to hear their vision about what they want to do in our city. I was excited. I was really excited that I had a colleague there to share in their vision. So it was a really good event today. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Kell.
All right, I'm going to channel my inner Councilwoman Ortiz. Y'all know I love my firefighters. Where's Chief at? Oh, okay, there he is. All right. So I'm going to talk about the dryer fires. This weekend, my dryer wasn't acting right. I couldn't figure out what was going on. I pulled my dryer vent out. I had 4 feet worth of grass and sticks in there. And so please check your dryer vents, clean your vent trap. According to the National Fire Protection Association, there's 13 to 16 dryer fires a year that equate to 7 to 13 deaths and over $200 million in property damage. The biggest are your lint trap and your vent hose being clogged. So please take the time, especially this time of year with birds flying stuff in, because that's what it was in my hose, was a bird's nest. take the time and then take the precautions afterwards. I put a new outlet on there where it has a little cage on it that keeps the birds out. So, but please take the time. 10 minutes worth of work can save your house, can save your family, and it saves some firefighters. Thank you. I think I'm dead now after Councilman.
No smoke.
Don't forget to get your smoke alarm.
I just have one thing tonight. Yesterday was the annual State of Kansas Holocaust commemoration. I've been going to that for many years. Yesterday was the first opportunity where I had the privilege of being a part of that ceremony and lighting. They asked me to light one of the candles in honor of those who died during the Holocaust. So I just want to thank them for the invite. It's always a fascinating event in general and an important one. And there are not many survivors left, but one of them lives over in the Kansas City area, and she was there yesterday to tell her story. There were a lot of students, kids from across the state of Kansas there, so that was obviously very important for them also to hear that story, especially first-person account of someone who made it out of one of those camps. So just want to remind everybody that event happens every year, and so look forward to again next year if you're interested in participating in it. With that, we have a need for one executive session. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The motion would be to recess into executive session for a time not to exceed 45 minutes to discuss non-elected personnel matters involving individual employees as allowed under KSA 75-4319B1. The open meeting will resume in this room in the City Council chambers. The following individuals will be necessary to aid the governing body in its discussion: the governing body, the Director of Human Resources, the Deputy Director of Finance, and any other staff members as directed.
All right. I will move to go into executive session. Do I have a second? Second. Second for Councilmember Kell. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Aye. With that, we will take a 10-minute break. Be back here at 9:06, and we will start. Hopefully you're in here, but I'm starting if you're not.
Yeah, won't be here.
All right, the governing body has come out of executive session. No action has been taken. This meeting is adjourned.
Better.